Ayan na si ate. Mega mega love shout out ate Janet. Bakit walang may busis ba? Narinig po ba ako, guys? Baka walang busis to Carlitos, ha? Ha? Tingnan mo nga dyan sa taas, may busis ba ako? May busis po ako? Wala, mayroon. Salamat ate Janet. At tagal kong hindi naka-ano te. Naka-live. Diyos ko. Bakit ganito yung camera ko? Ha?
Naka-ID picture na yung buwan. Nakaharap ako eh.
Saan ba yung gumagana ng headset? Ito o yung isa? Walang gumagana? Sure ka?
Lahat yan gumagana.
Oh.
Ba't yung tinry ko hindi?
Lahat yan gumagana. Yung saksakan yung sira.
Ito? FCPC. Sabihon. Ay, badilin.
Kailangan kasi yun eh.
Anong hatag?
Di harang.
Ah.
Naginig ba, te?
Ha?
Ginig?
Di yung stick kasi ano?
Okay.
Yung harang ba?
Ito yung mic niya, no? Dito, oh.
Dyan yung mic.
Meron na? I like chasing cars.
Okay. 2 million people in the house. Thank you so much. Laki tagawat ko
Isa lang yan.
Atay. Nahawaan ako sa mga bomba ni Banjilin, guys. Ano si Ate Janet. Tapos ikaw, ilista mo. Malay mo.
Janet. Ako yung talaga eh. Kita mo na.
Mga tulog pa ata, mga katauhan. Ayaw nila sa mukha ni Mayang. Bakit na trade so? Tatlo ang ilagay kong video sa mga ano.
Hello. Permit, hindi na green.
Ha?
Yung permit ba bago mag-exam? May kulay dilaw na po. Yung kulay natin kasi green. Natin kasi green.
Number 4. Kaluoy, banta pa ni mayang, may nanoon.
Ay, butangan, bumayang pala.
Siyempre. So, pag-entry, ragi mayang. Testing ko.
Sino yun? Wowa?
Sino?
May bago.
May bago pumasok?
Wowa 818 TV.
Mega mega love, shout out to you. Nag-share lang ako eh. Yun, dan tamsak. Thank you so much, ma'am. Wawa 818 TV. May jacket ka na po, ma'am. May entry ka pa po. Yan o. Share ko dyan. Para maano nyo.
Sino po yun?
Nagbabalik.
So just loaded out load number 2. That's a little farther down in the field than I was expecting it to be, and I kind of raised that corner up on this end some. This is Ford is trying to blend some stone in there to make that
Wala naman si Andot lagi.
kind of huge stump right there that was ground off, so that's got to be
Sarap tao.
ground down some more. I'm gonna slick this up kind of the best I can with the blade here. And probably back the truck up here and see if I can scoop up maybe some of that mulch. Need all that up there and finish that load up and go haul it off. Come back and dress my bottom up.
Nag-live pala si Ma'am Lynn. Kaya pala. Maudi ay.
Dalawa yung, may isa pang custom life na.
Lahat yan guys, Stone Life yung sa taas. Apat-apat ang ay hindi kay kay Dona at ay isa.
Puntahan ko dalawa custom life.
Tatlo yan. 1, 2, 3 yan kay Stone Life tapos sumuli. Kaluoy, ito may tao na tanaw. Tariran sa kangkungan. Kisa may paintrihan mo na dyan mo may tao.
Kuring, kuhan. Kuring mga custom life.
Yan, paintri ka dyan.
Tinaro. Lake Tinaro. Ang galing, may drone sila.
Sino?
Sila sa Tondo.
Tagal-tagal na mag-grow niya. Ganda yung ano nila. Ganda ng ano nila.
Ganda ng pagka-edit sa na.
Magaling yung asawa niya mag ano. So, mga log posting 2,100 to reach active from daily posting different. No. Si Jill. Di atay ka Jill, pumasok ka. Imbes ako lang nagdala kay Jill, siya patuloy yung na ano,
Nanalo yun.
nanalo pistol. Gabi ha.
Sabi niya,
Klaro.
hindi. Hindi ko ako makapaniwala. Nakita ko sa ano eh.
Tawa kang tawa.
Social. Mount Alpiangan. Hindi ka nila mga isla, no?
Sino?
Kanas tong life.
Hilig na sila kuan.
Google.
Outing. Bakit nakaganyan nakalagay?
Sunod.
FCPC.
Kasi yan yung ginagamit kong kuwan eh.
Hmm.
Kanang account. Tapos sabi ni yung retired, yung ano namin, yung sergeant namin, kailangan daw ganyan daw yung pangalan. Kasi yan yung
Sa YouTube?
Hindi kasi yan sa YouTube siya sa
Yung
email.
Google email mo na.
Roughly cut out there.
Dapat
Whenever
lahat daw kami
the
ganyan.
people come, they've got to come and get the monolithic slabs.
Kung tingnan mo,
that they
nagagalit.
put around here.
Ah,
All that sort of get for us. I'll let it a couple inches high, so maybe a little bit of time before they get here. So if it rains, that water will still run out. They can just kind of lose the dirt that they cut out for the footings in there. And once all that's poured and everything, I'll probably end up having to come here. And I don't kind of lost track of exactly where it goes. The building price that comes with these edges back and got a little swell around the bottom of the foundation. So
Terence.
all I need to do is kind of put a level.
Huwag mo na lista yan, Terence.
Bakit? Malay natin.
Maybe it'll burn up there that way. Yeah, that oil will run down. I'll probably shut the lid out a little bit. Move it up some more when come back to finish everything up and get those switch around over there and spread all that out.
Sa lagnat, hihingin ng gamot na pinaka-nirereseta ng mga doktor ang lagang biogesic.
Oo nga no, pumayat nga konti yung mukha ko no. Lata. Pumayat konti.
Daming harang ah. Nakaano ko lang. Nakabalik ko lang.
Mega love shoutout sa dalawa dyan.
Then that's for
Huwag
today.
ka na magtago.
Machine warming up, got down to 25 last night, a little chilly. And a little chilly this morning. So I've been working over here and I worked over here some yesterday. I didn't
Kasabutan na ilang mga.
get any video. They just come here and set the fire up.
Kasabutan na ilang ko.
Previous contractors coming here and cleared this probably a year or 2 years ago. Pushed everything up into a giant pile right here and tried to burn it. Just clean the first bit of dirt off any of the stumps.
Aba, nag-live na po si Pungal, oh. Namugot man.
Ano yun, kanta-kanta lang.
Kanta-kanta yan.
Iya, nang i-upload sa kuwan.
Ay,
bawal pala.
Been going through the stump, there was just a pile of stumps,
Streaming.
all from here all the way to the burn pile, just been picking through it, knocking the dirt off of it. And all the sticks and everything, it just turns to mulch. So, working through that, trying to get the big stuff out, and
Maya, may papasok din.
first thing this morning, I come up here and throw some stumps around, get that back burning pretty good, and go ahead and toss some more stuff on there and keep everything through it. And get all this stuff down here so we can burn it.
Sus, Ginoo, parang may loading nga. Sama si Marang loading.
Through all this.
Iya, matian ano.
Literally got to make every stump, break it around, try to get all the dirt off of it. Very aggravating stuff to do. End up with such a mess.
Ended relationship daw.
I've had this mess.
Tutok Erwin Tulfo. Iba rin to. Isa ka rin Tulfo.
Ha?
Tutok Erwin. Ha? Tutok Erwin
Saan?
Tulfo. Nakikita ko dito sa...
Ah, bago niyan, bago. Ay, alam ko na. Basa ko dito. Mamakaawa ng ano eh, mga magpunta. Wala namang klase ngayon, di ba? Hindi, pagpasapasahan natin lahat mga kamag-anak natin.
Senior ko nga eh.
Senior mo din.
Baka makapirate tayo, uy.
Magkasan niyo yan.
Slow going process. Pick every stump out. Get it all filled in. The next. Rather this stuff's even burning, wet as it is.
Si Ate Nora, mahilig na rin magpapa-entry ngayon ah. Natatawa talaga ako yung mga tao marunong na magpapa-entry.
Pretty dry stuff out. Grab that.
Ah,
Tuyo. The fire on the other side.
Tayo dyan pang gamot umay.
Sino yun?
Literally just a pile of thick dirt.
Sabi niyo, let done. Walang klase ngayon eh, kaya pang sidnan ko lahat. Walang klase ngayon guys, kaya ako nakagamit sa cellphone. Ay, cellphone sa computer. Lughana na dili pang pasahan, o dyan mo reply sa usa. Paet. Ito, yan pa ba kaya yung account niya ginamit at yan-an? Kinadaghanag account, kalibog.
So I dug through the old ash pile there and pulled out a bunch of stumps that were half burnt. Mashed them
Sumilit
up.
pala.
Now they're burning pretty good.
Busala, ha? Busala.
Blazing pretty good right there. I'm gonna pile some of this old sticks. It's still pretty wet, but they're dry. Start piling some stumps on top of it.
Daming skip po.
Fire still.
Dami harang.
Oo, sa'yo.
Put down pot and stuff.
Tuloy-on.
It goes more exact, and once it really gets going, I can put something bigger, something on there, put that dirt on. But I can't get off.
Diyos ko, ginawa ko. Sige, ilis ang Facebook, sabok-sabok.
There, stack that a little bit. Do that.
Nam, lagi po yung lahing account ni Lario.
Let it dry
Tinda yan.
out. More cold. With the bigger stuff, now make it one or two
Napo do,
inches in
iboy
there.
ang perapir. Tinaghanag mga account.
Start drying out as well. Like this one. That's it. Put it over here this side. Heat from the fire and start kind of drying out a little bit. As the fire burns over, then I can roll it over into the fire. Then I'll have all that small dry
Si Oscar,
stuff.
nanay.
I get it dry.
Kuwan si Oscar.
Put it smaller stuff, and then the other pile that I can go ahead and pile on top of it, and they'll keep giving it the small stuff that needs, like this right here.
Si Jay.
Ano? Kain ka ba?
Pick through it.
Hi, it's for Y4. Ano yan? It's for Y4.
Kain ka ba?
Bakit ngayon yung ano niya, pangalan niya? It's for Y4. Sino yan?
Susun.
Siyon ba yan? Nalilito na talaga ako sa'yo. Basyensyon ka. Ang dami mo na talaga mga nalalaman.
Anong account nga?
Ang dami talagang ano to eh. Kumusta na? Nakabalot na ba yung pamasko namin?
Tawa na.
Ay, Diyos ko.
Ay, nga pala.
Kaya, lagyan mo ng entry yan. Malay mo, mabunot ka, Sean. Kailan ka ba pupunta dito? 20, ano, ang draw nito eh, 23. Ah, 24? Ah. May taga-sagot pala eh, girlfriend mo ba, Bajilen?
Ano ba?
Babalutin pa lang, te. Uy, dumaan ka sa ano ba? Sean, ibili mo nga ako ng ano, ng halaman sa ano, sa Tagaytay, yung ano lang, yung lemon. Bayaran kita dito. Isang puno, kahit isang puno lang. Lagay ko sa terrace doon, kabila. Lemon ano ha? Dira kalayo. Asa man day karon? Di ba sa Tagaytay siya?
Hindi mo nata. Sabi na Cavite.
Caleb Storm sa Merry Christmas. Sino ba ito? Caleb, hello.
Ah, grabe yung hayang ko. Ano ka mo, nakagapon.
May jacket ka na po, Caleb. Kaninong ninja tong Caleb? Okay.
Ano, store?
Oh, store. Ah, Inday manenedi ay. Ayan, yan ang isulat mo yung Caleb ha. Kay Inday Janet manina, kay Inday Janet. Oh, yan, ma-entry ka na, Inday. Talaga.
Ang sarap pa.
Ayan oh, nag-blue ka na, ang jacket na. Jun, ibili mo ako ng ano yun ba? You're welcome. Ngayon lang ako tagal kung hindi naka-live, isang buwan mahigit. Ngayon lang kung week na to, ngayong ano na to, buwan ng December lang ako nag-start. Nagluto kong tahong. Ah, nagluto ka? Ilang halaman? Isa lang. Para hindi ka mahirapan. Oo nga. Walang klase ngayon hindi eh. Kaya ano, nakaano ako. Kasi yung mga laptop ng mga bata, hindi daw makita yung ilang piraso. Isa lang. Hindi makaano, hindi nila alam kung paano gamitin, hindi gumagana yung camera. Kaya itong computer ko ang ginagamit nila. Yung isa umaga, yung isa naman panghapon, palit-palitan. O, yung ano ha, lemon ha, hindi limonsito ha, lemon. Bakit kunin mo nga yung ano, isang pirasong lemon, pakita ko sa kanya. Yung lemon na hindi limonsitos yun ha. Mura lang doon sa Tagaytay eh. Kahit 2 puno, ayos na. Isa o 2 puno. Ganito ha, ganito na pagka-lemons yun ha. Kung, di ba, kung may makita kang ganito, or may makita kang apple doon na may bunga na, bumili ka rin, isa lang. Gawin mo, isang ganito at saka isang apple. Kasi lalagay ko doon sa terrace, sa taas, doon sa kabilang bahay. Nasa 250. May ubas na kasi ako dito doon sa kabila. May ubas na ako doon eh.
Diyan.
Ang kulang ko apple at saka lemon.
Ay, di ba pala po sa iyo naman yung paraan.
Alam mo naman ako, Diyos ko, ginoo ko. Inday, Janet. Andyan ka pa ba, Inday? Natatawa kasi ako. Pasabi ng asawa ko, parang gubat na daw yung taas namin, puro na halaman. Nasisiyahan ako eh. Lalo pag nagkita ko yung mga halaman ko, ay naku, Diyos ko, plantita. Yan kasi si Sean, pumupunta kasi yan dito. Inday, Janet, kaya yan, ninanuan ko eh. Malapit naman ata yan siya sa Tagaytay. Sabihin ko nga sana masarap pumunta sa inyo. Punta ka kasi hindi pa tapos bahay ko, Inday.
Cavite ba? Tagaytay doon na?
Oh, doon man good ang Cavite, ang Tagaytay, doon man Diyos ko pilar ka kuan. Punta ka dito kaso hindi pa tapos bahay ko. Hindi pa. Oo. Ay, marami na akong gulay doon sa kabilang bahay. Diyos ko, Ginoo ko. Kung gulay lang, ay nako, kumpleto na panghalo. Meron na ako doon bagong tanim na patatas. Hanapin ko po yun saan yun mabibili. Malapit lang doon sa bilayhan ng yun, mga baka. Ganito na lang pag pumunta. Pangalawang biyahe asawa ko pwede mag-harvest. Pag walang biyahe. Sige, Inday, sige. Mayroon kami mga pichay. Hindi mo ba nakita sa ko, sa page ko, sa pobreng mayang. Ito yung page ko, oh. Pobreng mayang. Tingnan mo doon mga gulay ko, ang dami. Pobreng mayang. Iba kasi itong buhulan na mayang, lang to eh. Facebook lang to eh. Doon sa page ko, pobreng mayang. Kalagay. Mayroon din akong konting okra, konting talong. Ang marami, pitsay.
Sa ibang bansa pala to eh. Sa ibang bansa.
Doon ka magbili yun sa Tapos bumili ka na rin ng pulutan natin baka doon.
Mura lang daw doon.
Mura lang.
Ikaw ata sabi mo eh.
Yun. Doon kasi kami dati namamalingki sa Tagaytay, doon sa may Mahogany.
Mura lang daw yung karne.
Sa Mahogany ka, doon sa may Tagaytay sa Mahogany, doon ang bilihan. Mura mga karne doon ng baka. 180 yung baka doon. Buto-buto. Oo. Nung dati nakatira kami sa Dasmariñas, doon ako. Anong lugar yung Mahogany? Mahogany. Wala nang ibang pagdating mo doon pag sinabing Mahogany, alam na alam ng mga tao yun. Tagaytay, Mahogany. Alam nila yun. Pagka nandoon ka na, sabihin mo sa akin, magbitbit ka na maraming karne, bibiling ka. Papalaga ako na yung karne. Pwede ka naman doon diretso ka doon. Galing ka Tagaytay, diretso ka na papunta dito. Sarap kasi yung karne doon eh. Preskong presko. Barangay Mahogani yun. Sabihin mo lang Mahogani ah. Alam ng mga tao yun. Doon kami namamalingki eh.
Saan ba yung tanggi?
Ha?
Saan ba yung tanggi?
Tiyanggi, loob sa pasilanan yung tiyanggi eh. Pero yung Mahogani, doon mga prutas, mga baka o mga presko. Dami doon. Makita mo doon halos puro baka. Konti lang baboy. Dili ko makapromise nga makadala ko. Giatay ka, wag kang pumunta dito pag wala kang dalang limon. Madaming hiliran ng baka. Oh, sobrang dami. Mura lang buto-buto doon. La. La.
Posible naman wala eh. Nakita ko kasi maraming yun.
Madami doon?
halaman.
Hindi lang tamad yung anak ko, utusan ay nako. Tamad kasi eh. Mama,
Sino
bili-bili na naman ng halaman. Bibili-bili na naman ng halaman.
Saan mo nakita ko eh?
Hindi, doon kasi ako bumibili. Dati kasi yung bahay ko sa Dasmariñas, puro mga halaman, mga gulay, mga prutas. Madaming hilira. Walang tao ang live ko kasi. Matagal kasi ako hindi nag-live. 1 buwan mahigit. Pagdating anong November wala akong live eh. Pagdating ng ngayon lang akong December nag-umpisa mag-live. Kaya walang tao. Ang mahal kasi dito yung lemon, bilhin mo mahal dito.
Ano ba kilo niya?
4 ang 50 niyan, o 5 50 ta. Okay lang yan, yung susunod meron na ulit yan. Oo. Dati, dami dati eh. Tagal ko na hinto eh. Pero ito yung pina-entryhan ko ng mga nakaraang buwan. Ang bunot nito ngayong December 23. Sinong pagpalain yan, mabunot? ₱10,000 din yan ang premium niyan, yung nandyan sa back. 10,000. Hati-hatiin kung ilang tao, kung sino mabunot. Pero yung sponsor nito, wala pa akong nakuha. Ngayon ko pa kukunin ngayong 20. Ngayon pa ako magkukuha sa mga sponsor nila. Maliit lang ngayon, di katulad ng nakaraan. Pero itong entry na to, ano na siguro to, nasa 3,000 siguro to, mahigit eh. Hindi lang. Kasi nagdikit-dikit ng iba sa tagal mo. Dami ba naman yan?
Yung nails.
Yung nails na maganda, mega love shout out. Nabuhay ako uli. Mayong buntag diha. Namahaw na baka diha yeng.
Our capacity is faster,
Maadjong
bigger than the infection.
La kalami sa balay ni mo yeng. Sekretor man ka oy. Ang dami ang daming day. Bayinging, ang ganda ng bahay mo, Bayinging. Sana all. 4 million people in the house. Thank you so much, guys. Wa pa'y kaon. Kaon sa diha, inuuna mo pa yung white tea. Kaon sa diha. Naluto na yung giluto siyon.
Dalaga ba ba siya? Kaya niya?
Oh, dalaga.
Kaya ko.
Dalaga na siya. Mo lagi nang muuli na siya kay mabiyaan na sa biyahe. Ay, papa. Uli na ba kay mabiyaan gani ka sa biyahe na magmahay jud ka. Opo te.
Nag-asa mo.
Ang bait desisyon ngayon siguro naliligaw to kay Banjilin. Siya, naliligaw ka ba kay Banjilin?
Sabihin mo.
Approve ka sa akin.
Sabihin mo yung totoo. Yaya ka pa eh. Opo ate.
Jara!
Yatay ka. Bagong kita nagdungari. Yatay ka. Yatay ka.
Ay, ginoo ko.
Hindi na ko din ko.
Jara!
Lain na. Buang.
Uy, sunan tagai ko. Wa man ganinig kaon ariyen. Giatay kasi yun na. Basta may limon.
Basta big
Mao jud inday Janet. Basta na limon, approve na. Ay, ginoo ko. Okay ra na siyon. Kay nag-post up ni Banjilin, patong lang kasi babaw post up ni Banjilin. Anong bahay plano-plano busy pa construction oy. Busy pa lang plano pa lang busy sa pa-construction.
Oo, ulo ko yung dala. Lain na.
Ay, ginoo ko to, mo pala tong luha ni emosyon. Ay, katawa si Inday nito.
Gara pala ha.
Kalata kayo na. Patay ka dyan. Maliban na lang kung mapando ni Banjilin, makalimot. Gua kasi yun.
Jara.
Jara.
Di ate. Mayo yan.
Ay, ginoo ko siyon ni mo. Tingnan mo dumami na, ang umabot na ng 6. Tingnan mo, nahiya tuloy yung isa, no? Wala.
Ay, malay. Ay, tamsak pala.
Hago, kasi yun. Mo palit kung bulad di mo. Oh, palit are day. Oh, day. Siyon. Di ay buwa, di ay puset. Ajawa, ari na ka mo palit na, di na ka mo palit ni Lare.
Nil-aral.
Kay akong ibaligya diri. Oh, ibaligya ni mo manguntak kadaan usa ni mo dalhon. Moingon na to Lare og uy naunsa man kasi yun manong adto ni makang ate mo palit manong di na makanaho. Moingon pag adto na kong ate kay approve na kong Banjilin. Ay, ginoo ko na emosyon. Hago ra ka. Katawan tam Inday Janet. Ay, Diyos ko. La. Magdasal ka lang talaga makalimutan ni Banjilin yung sinabi mong jara. Magdasal kang mapando.
Parang nagrequest ba? Sabi na ni Juan ba? Sabi mo, ano yun? Ayaw niya kay Kulari?
Oh, dati.
Ayaw niya.
Katawad ko na ni Marie Cres og ni Lare sa una. Kanan si Marie Cres buntis pa na nang ligaw na si Lare arang niwanga. Daan na dito sa balay nakalimot na siya. Ingon na
Nahiya
siya.
lang yun.
Oh, nahiya lang yun. Ingon na siya. Mangligaw ako sa kapatid mo, Brad. Ingon siya aron ni Jerome na tayon, Jerome.
O di ni kaya.
Jerome mo tatang isang ina na ron. Og Ronaldo mo na tayon. Kay kaubam na Ronaldo tinda og buwan tungkang Jupiter. Apet ting niwanga na siya. Isos Ginoo nang laom mo ng mata. Diya ingon mo na siya. Oh. Ingon mo na, oh, niwang ka jo, ingon mo na si Maricruz. Ya, kadiri, mo na maligaw mo siguro. Tanawa lagi, mau may na ba na? Ako yaw na sila rin sa una kaya sa buntis kaya nakagtijan Maricruz tumpong kamagwangan. Maligaw lagi ko. Pwede naman ako maging tatay niya eh. Naran na. Masukuro ba dyan nag-hawag istorya?
Ayaw na balikan.
Sige, balik-balik. Sige, balik-balik. Rachel Ann Toledo, mega love. Shout out to you, ma'am. Rachel Ann Toledo. Thank you so much sa pagbisita mo kay Bohola na mayang. May entry ka na po, madam. Wala muot talaga.
Pandun noon.
Oo nga, magpa-entry ka na dyan silahan kay
Talaga.
na may tagalista na ko dire sa gilid. Wala muot yung kaadyo. De, si Maricruz di nanganak na. Pumunta na si Maricruz dito kay La Renando kasi lumipat na La Renando noon eh. Yung anak niya nandun kay Dodong Brian. Tapos si Maricruz di nagpunta na dito kay La Renando. True love kanya te. True love kanya te mayan. Tapos ide doon na si Maricruz. Nag-repack doon kay Renando nandiyan pa pala si Ignils na minaw ro na. Tapos Jesus, Ginoo ko kay aglari kay himbalihin magtrabaho. Didto man to kan Jupiter, didto na po kay Renando. Naimong si Laren driver. Tapos si Maricruz naman naging repacker. Jesus, Ginoo ko. Ingko patay na. Wa na dyan eh. Sigurado na dyan eh. Abay, wala lang siguro mga 2 buwan. Wa na, alam ko na, yun na. Sila na, mag-boyfriend, girlfriend na sila. Ay, Ginoo ko. Kala mo nga, sabi ko sa'yo eh, sabihan mo, yak, mamaya, yan pa, sabi ko pa, yak ka dyan, baka mamaya, yan pa yung katuluyan mo. Tingnan mo, di yun ang naging katuluyan niya. Ay, Diyos ko. Buutan mong ko, timayang. Buutan lagi. Ang tawag gud kay usa man na nimo mahibaw-an og buutan bagdi ba og mag-uban na mo. Nani man ganing mag-uban mo, di pa man ganing kita ang tanan. Mugawas ra do nang ano na naman yan? Bakikay, mega love shout out. Madam Kikay Colette TV.
Congratulations.
Congratulations. Nagchismisan kami dito, Bakikay.
Ayan na, nalista ko na.
Ayan, nalista ka na daw ni Banjilin. Kinapalamuutan, yung adyo, bitaw sa una. Masuko sila. Masuko sa baoy. Ay, Ginoo ko nimo Bakikay. 7 million people in the house, done 2, 3, 4. Si Rachel Anje, tapos na sa 4. Salamat, Dan share, Banje. Dan share na daw din si Kikay. May entry din yan.
Oh.
I-share nyo guys, i-share nyo. Another entry yan. Yung biro-biro yan ang nagkakatuluyan. Tama ka dyan, Inday.
Ito pala yun.
Sabi ko nga, o tingnan mo nga ngayon ma-request, o. Sabi ka noon, o tingnan mo, ilan ang naging trophy mo? 2.
Trophy pa talaga.
Ay, Diyos ko. Sabi ko na.
Rachel Ann.
Lalabas yung mga trophy. Mag-ano muna ako ng ano.
Rachel Ann.
4 yun, di ba? Number 5 na eh. Alam mo kasi, hindi natin alam ang panahon kasi Diyos lang nakakaalam. Mamaya, yun pala talaga nakatadhana sa atin, di ba? Tingnan mo kami ng aking darling, oh. Ang aking darling is, ano siya, sa Amerika pa, ako dito lang sa Pilipinas. Oh. Dito kami pinagtagpo dito sa Bulacan, o di ba? Oh. Kalain mo 'yon? Kalain mo maging ganun? Oh, di happy family ako ngayon. Harang pa, Liz Exploradora, Italy. Thank you so much, madam. Wait. Ayan guys, nababa din ang bahay si Ma'am Liz, guys. Ay, sana. Oh.
Explode.
Dan 124 si Yay, sana all happy. Sabi ko sa'yo, umuwi ka na para hindi ka maanuhan ng tren. Umuwi ka na, maiwanan ka talaga ng tren yang. Kala mo lang. Dan share sa FB po. Ayun, si Resilan, dagdagan mo isa. Dan share sa FB. Share nyo sa FB guys kasi may entry po yan. December 23 po ang raffle natin guys. Kaya mayroon na kayong panghanda ng Christmas kung mabunot man. Ayaw ko na umuwi. Expired na. Na-expired na si Nils. Di atay na expired na ba eh? Ay, Diyos ko. Expired na pala. Yahoo! Ayan, ang ginagawa ko, 4 na video sa isang sponsor ang binababa ko. Para yan ang mapuntahan yung 4 na video yan. 4 kada sponsor.
Yahoo, naalista ko na. Tamsak.
Ayan, puntahan ninyo yan si Liz, guys. Naabutan ng lockdown na. Kalata, kayeng. Ay, Ginoo, kunin mo yung. Yan ang sinasabi ko sa'yo eh. Umuwi ka na, kaya naabutan ka tuloy ng ano. Yan na tuloy. Paano na? Paano na ang puso ko? 3 na lang sila. Palamuot ra. Ay, Diyos ko. Madili no, pa-entry ka dyan no, habang wala pa tapos. Para makumpleto yung ano mo.
5.
Palamuot ra kaadyo. O, diba? Tingnan mo ako ngayon. Happy life, happy husband. Ganun lang yon. Dan tamsak na daw kay Liz Exploradora, si
Ate,
Nels. Inday Crystal Pet, miga love, shout out. Salamat, Inday. Italy Exploradora, Italy, si Nels tapos na. DC Bumaat, MLS po sa iyo, ma'am. Salamat po, Ma'am Daisy, sa pagpunta. Maraming salamat, newbie. Yes po, may jacket ka na po, Ma'am Daisy. Good morning, ate, at sa lahat. Good morning din sa iyo, Inday Crystal Pate. Maraming salamat, guys. Pwede bang pass 5 to 8? Pwede rin. Bakit ba? Pwede naman. From Bohol. Pareho tayo, ma'am. Bohol din ako, ma'am. Ay, tigbay. Uy, tigbay. Lalabs Daisy, sabi Ate Kikay. Ayan. Manghod, sabi ni Bakikay, manghod. Kay ano tayo kay Donna, kay Sisi ko, Donna Hilario. Nag-ano pala ito? Dan
Dancer.
5, 6, 7, 8. DJ Pink Noise. Ayun, si Rachel Ann. 9. 10. 23 yung ano natin guys ha. 23 yung ano natin. Alam mo Kai, mayroon kang hindi mo pa alam. Kadiwa ka ba banda? Resilan sa Kadiwa ka ba banda? Resilan Kadiwa, saan Kadiwa? Sa Cavite ba? Alam ko yung Kadiwa ah. 9, 10, 11, 12. Tamsak na host, Algers TV official, mega love, shout out to you, sir. Alam ko yan. Biya birthday lang kami kay eh. Kumusta na house? Okay lang po, sir. Algers TV. Okay lang po. Maraming salamat sa pagbisita mo, sir Algers.
Lasal, ano yun?
Oh, sa Lasal. Malapit yun sa Lasal, ate. Yun. Oo, malapit.
DJ pa rin.
Ano kami eh, sa Dasma, sa Via Verde lang kami. Welcome. Oh, salamat din. Sa Via Verde lang kami, malapit lang yan.
Di ba si Kikay ano din yan? Cavite din yan?
Tracy yan eh, General Mortires. Si Kikay. Saan ka nga ba, Kay? Di ba General Trias ka, Kay?
Puro sila sa Cavite.
Yung Kadiwa, pwedeng daanin namin yan doon sa may ano, sa may Via Verde. May daanan na doon papunta doon, Kadiwa. Tika lang, yung darling ko baka Dan sa FB ate. Salamat Inday Crystal Pet. Dan FB share ate. Yan si Inday Crystal Pet. Saglit lang. Baka yung darling ko wala ano. Wala ka. Lagyan ko muna soft drinks isa.
Pati Crystal Pet. Banji.
You're welcome po. Dan 9 to 12, Angeline.
Dan 9. Ako alam 9.
Sabi ni Kikay, na tapos na. Banjing wapa, ikaw puli, ano? Ikaw puli. Eb. Ikaw na puli, Eb.
Sino siyang Ib?
Ikaw, siyempre. Love pala eh. LB pala yan eh. Akala ko ay.
Giatay ka!
Love pala. Akala ko eh. Giatay. Love pala tawagan nila. Kikay, mayroon na pumapag-ibig.
Buang.
May pumapag-ibig na. Yung si H4Y4 at saka si FCPC.
Giatay.
Ano code ate? Ano day? Bruha. Mayang, ganyan. Team Bruha Mayang. Lagay mo. Ngeta ang landi.
Giatay. Buang.
Oh, Mayang Bruha.
Sa
Ganyan.
akin, mayang lang nilagay.
Pwede rin. Basta Mayang Bruha. Lagay mo.
Kay doon na dalawa yung natamsakan. Buang. Jara.
Oh. Lumalandi na.
Hmm.
Kasi yan si H4Y4. Payat yan kay. Kapag nag-push up si Evangeline, papatong lang yan sa likod ni Evangeline.
Giat.
Wala pa akong almusal, ngita. Bakit saan ka magaling at wala kang almusal? Oh, apat yan kay DJ Pink Noise, Inday. Apat yan. Apat-apat sa isang sponsor. Apat na video ang binababa ko. Puro na landi yan, DJ. Kagigising lang, ano ba yan? Ulan na ng pira. Ngayon ka lang gumising. Hindi ka makapulot.
Magulan.
Doon nga.
Jeep, jeep. Hi, jeep, jeep.
Yan si Jeb Jeb. Hindi pa makita dito. Dito sa cellphone makita
Hi,
na.
jeep.
Hello, Jeb Jeb Bernales.
Nalista ka na, jeep.
Mayroon ka na entry na.
Tangkad na ni jeep, jeep. No?
Grabe tangkad ng bata na to. Makapulot, oy. Sa labas ako natulog. Hindi ate.
Sa labas.
Sa labas pala natulog.
Kaway,
Ay, Diyos ko,
kaway.
Ginoo. Kaway, Jip Jip. Nakita ko yan kahapon, Jip Jip eh. Ang tangkad na lalo ni Jip Jip. Diyos ko. Namimiss ko po kayo. Kami din, Jip. Ngayon lang ako rin na uli nag-live ngayong December.
Sino yun? Score.
Dan share na din. Sabi ni Inday Janet ay lagyan mo pa ng isa. Isang entry kanya. Nag-share na siya eh. Asa na ka nasyon? Masarap to session ka usap eh. Kahit sa personal, masarap yung kausap. Katawa ka talaga dyan.
Magaling yan mag-beatbox.
Galing talaga mag-beatbox.
Andyan
Ay,
yung
24 ba siya pupunta?
24 ba sabi ni ano? Siya na, si Tita Marquez tayo si Bencho.
Dapat 23 ka Sion. Para mag-beatbox ka dito sa live.
Oo, pupunta niya dito ba ano?
24, marami ng tao yun. Dapat 23 ka. Kasi gabi ako mag-live ng 23. Naadiri Nagkaon ko Nagkaon na siya. Oo, 23.
Party daw nila.
Party ninyo?
Ino ko mo party? Baby, ano, naabot.
Sa 23 na. Sa 23 yung grand. Sa 23. Ilang number ba yung kanina? Hanggang 12 ako, 13 na to. 14.
Dan sa mga video ni Makedona. Apat at ano?
Apat yan, Inday, Crystal Pet. 15, 16. Apat-apat na video ang binababa ko sa kanila eh. Nakakapimis po pumunta dito sa YT. Kaya nga bunso eh. Dan 9, 10, 11, 12. Sabi ni Rachel Ann. Tarawan sa kangkungan. Nawala na tuloy. Kumakain kasi si Shun eh. Wala tayong patawa eh. Kakatuwa kasi si Shun.
It was a desperate move. Conrad counted quickly. He was $1,000 short of being able to cover the bet. He had to fold in order to have anything left for the next hand. A chip sailed onto the table and landed on the top.
It's all me, Brandon. Oh,
Conrad turned his head to look at the rancher.
why would you want to help me out, Vince? Because you're the one I want to face.
Ha?
Not this
Ako sa Bromar.
Okay na nga, pakilang di, pakiabot. Tubig.
He leaned forward about to say
Okay,
something,
Bromar.
but that Masterson stepped up to the table.
Gentlemen, let's not have any trouble here.
Masterson
Hindi mo
reached down
pwede.
to pick up the chip
Yung-
and throw it into the pot.
Ano? Ano ba to?
Vince.
Tingin?
Six are limited
Ano
to
ata
each
to eh?
hand on the table.
McKinney looked like
Ngayon
he was
ata.
going to argue, but Gray spoke up.
Anong di pwede?
With your
Wala akong
permission,
makomment.
Dad, I'll withdraw
Mayroon, manggod.
$1 from my-
Ayan o, okay na.
Ah, dito na lang.
Calm now.
Masterson looked at Conrad.
I call
Oo, kana di eh.
Conrad pushed his chips forward. Gray turned his card over.
Di, yung ano ba, yung comment talaga.
Dito
sa
o,
baba.
okay na.
Conrad
Ako mag-ano.
He laid his cards face up on the table.
Wala kasi sa baba eh.
Jacks over eights.
Gray stared at the cards for a second, then closed his eyes.
Premier ata to eh.
Oh, tumira ka.
Oh, yan, pwede ka naman dyan.
Diyan na lang sa
Oo,
may
makita
light
mo yan. 4 na video din yan. Oh, lahat yan ay anuhan mo.
I don't see any
13 to 16 sa Bakikay. Nakita ko nga si Bakikay.
Conrad
Kay
glanced
Bruno.
at Masterson, who nodded in agreement. The outcome of the next hand was a foregone conclusion. Playing it out would have been a waste of time. Masterson drew out his watch and checked
May
his
premier kasi yung ganyan. May
Just
premier.
afternoon. The final round
Ito sa
will
pasok.
begin at 6 o'clock this evening, if that's agreeable to the players. And me. All
Kay,
right, 6 o'clock.
okay lang ba pag mag-live ka sa ano kay mag... Joseph, the Dreamer, Vlog TV, Mega Mega Love, shout out to you. Sir Joseph, Tamsak, thank you so much, sir.
to have one of the hostesses wake in 3 hours.
There's a barber just down the street. I want to get cleaned up. And if there's
Ayan guys, nagbaba si Sir Joseph ng kanyang bahay guys.
Rose Sullivan is still out there somewhere. She might make another try for you. I doubt that. Now that she knows we're on to her, she's probably left town.
He wasn't completely convinced of that, even as he said it. He didn't really know what Rose was capable of. 3 hours of sleep blunted his exhaustion, and after a hot bath and a shave, Conrad felt considerably better as he dressed in fresh clothes he'd had sent over. His spirits perked up even more when he reached the hospital and saw how much better Arturo looked.
Ano?
He was sitting up in bed with his
Ano nga ba yung sinabi ko? Ah, pwede ba mag ano, kahit magsigarilyo ka sa live mo, di ba bawal yun?
He smiled.
Pero nakita kita noon eh.
As Conrad came in.
It's good to see you, sir. Does this mean the tournament is over? No, but the tournament will be starting before much longer. Me against France McKinney. Well, that's what you wanted, isn't it? Yeah. Going to see if I can't get McKinney to talk about
Isang
that.
video kay ano,
Don't expect
kay
you to think much
Bromar
about her in
sa
front of everyone who will be watching here. All I want to know is whether or not
Dan, 13, 14, 15, 16. Si ano?
whether he knows what she did. That's enough about my.
Dan Bromark.
How are you, Kim?
Arturo looked down.
Yung 4, Inday Crystal Pet.
I'd be much better if they
Huwag na, baka mapalo pa ni Lolo eh. Kaya nga, nakita kita dati eh.
But I think I could have done a better deal.
Isang bid kay Bromark. Isa, sa'yo pala yan, Magdalene. Kalitig ka. Kala ko.
I don't expect that I'd be staying here much longer.
Hindi, Crystal Pet, lahat niyon kay Bromark, Dan na.
Otherwise, I'm doing quite well.
Yung 4,
I remember most of
isa pati. Ah, isa pa pala.
isa pati.
Ibalik ko yung unang binaba ko kay Daston.
As long as Rose Sullivan, or whatever her name is loose, I don't think it'll hurt anything.
9, 9,
I don't see that I represent much of a threat to Sullivan, but I suppose you know more about this than I do. After all, not more people have tried to kill you.
That's the truth.
Conrad visited with Arturo for a while longer. then looked at his watch and saw it was time he needed to be getting back to the palace.
If you find out anything, let me know right away. Any time of the day or night. I doubt if the nurses would let me in here in the middle of the night.
Oh, I doubt that. I never saw a place yet you couldn't charm your way in.
I'll see you tomorrow.
Ibalik ko yung kay Daston Life kasi walang nagpa-entry kaganina kay Daston Life eh.
Before the night was over, he might know more about the fate of his children. Or he might
Anong utang na loob? Bakit ba?
Huwag mo ibalik yung 5 to 8 utang na loob. Giatay ka. Hindi naman kay Stone Life yun. Yung 1.
Ano na sa itong ano ni
Buang ka talaga Bakikay. Joseph the Dreamer. 2, 3. 3. Yung 1 kasi hindi mo naabutan yung 1. Ibalik ko. 4. 1, 2, 3, 4.
upside down?
Yan yung hindi pa nakapunta sa 1, 2, 3, 4 guys ha. Pag live. Pag entry. Dance in the Crystal Pit sa 13, 14, 15, 16. Ay.
Apat.
Habol ako sa 1 to 5. O yun. Habol ka, Inday. Sayang din. Tang 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 tang. 7 million people in the house. Thank you so much. Habol ako, Mayang. Hamabol ka na.
Habol siya lang umiyak daw.
Habol, Maya.
Palengke daw.
Saan siya?
Palengke.
Si Kikay? Punta lang ako palengke. Nauna nga sa cellphone ka sa computer ha.
Oh. Signal na tayo.
Papa.
Later for my lunch.
Soup only?
My soup.
Okay. Sorry, I'm busy here, Papa.
It's all right. Later.
No,
Later, alligator.
thank you. Busy mo na ako ha. Mamalengke lang. Saan pupunta? Napalengke sa may, sa may Kadiwa? Kadiwa ka mamalengke kay? Kanino na ngayon binaba ko kanina last? Kay Bromark? Bromark ba yun?
Binalik mo kay ano eh.
Hindi nga, yung ano ba ito? Kay Bromark ba yun? Bromark, sunod kay Kuana. Kay Kuya Prani na. Prani.
Gusto na kasi Prani no.
Sige, makukuha na ng mga video ni Kuya Prani.
Do either of you need a drink or something to eat before we begin? I could use a cup of coffee. Let's just get this over with.
Masterson motioned for one of
15 ba yung kanina?
50
16, 17 na. 17.
He slit the seal with a thumbnail, removed it, shuffled the cards deftly, and placed them in the center of the table. Cut for deal, gentlemen. Conrad nodded to McKinney.
Kadiwa ka mamalingki kay.
Took some of the cards off the top of the deck. He cut the
Uy,
queen apart.
bakikay.
Conrad, lazily, apparently completely at ease. Conrad
Mamaya ibababa ko yung mga ano,
He turned up the ace of spades.
mga member.
Good luck, gentlemen. Let the game begin. There hadn't
Hindi ako
been a lot of
nagmamadali
talk
ngayon
during the previous games. Some men like to have some conversation along with their cards, but most serious players had little to say except things that had to do with the game. The men taking part in the high-stakes tournament were all serious players, no doubt about that.
Doon
The
sa
king was
ano.
almost completely silent and uncommunicative. He said how many cards he
Sino?
wanted, and announced
Dan
what he
1
was
to
calling
4
the
the stone light. Yun. Hindi ko
He sullenly ignored Conrad's attempts at small talk. It wasn't going to be easy to get McKinney to spill whatever he knew about Pamela. Conrad was going to have to figure out a way to make it part of the game. He won the first few hands.
Ang sunod hindi kay ano,
Then the rancher
nakaabot ka ba kay hindi do kay Sis Dona hindi Crystal Pet?
Maybe your luck is changing.
Luck's got nothing to do with it. It was only a matter of time. Conrad took the deal right back by winning the next hand. McKinney's features darkened with rage. His brief taste of winning made losing even more difficult for him to swallow, Conrad thought. Even though he had decent cards, Conrad folded the next two hands. The pots weren't huge, and his stake was big enough he could afford to lose them. McKinney felt better again. As the next hand got underway, Conrad looked at his cards.
I'm curious about the time you spent with Pamela while she was here in Denver. Why don't we sweeten the pot a little? You tell me more about her visit, and I'll take that in lieu of a
Nakahabol daw
raise.
siya.
You're loco. That's none of your business. Conrad saw some of the spectators exchanging puzzled glances.
Kahabol pala
His
siya.
suggestion definitely was odd.
Good.
Pressed ahead with it anyway.
Can't blame me for being
Ah,
interested.
nakahabol. Ah, okay. Thank you.
Not when I knew her.
No, but that doesn't mean I didn't care about her anymore.
Care. McKinney shook his head. 5,000. He pushed chips into the middle of the table.
I'll see that and raise
Sa
5.
prami.
Conrad added a couple of stacks of his own chips to the pot.
Kay Prani na yung susunod. Kay Kuya Prani yan.
And continued. After a couple of more raises, Conrad called and won the pot with 4
Kay Sir DJ, nakahabol ka.
His cards disgustedly.
You could have saved yourself some money if you'd taken me up on my offer. Go to hell. Too late. I've already been there.
Damn it. Are we here to play cards or to gossip? In answer to that, Conrad began dealing the next hand. He won several hands and was well ahead in the game before he brought up the subject again.
Did you visit Pamela at her hotel while she was here?
You sullied the woman's
Ganda
name.
na.
I didn't say
Ganda ng
anything
bahay.
improper.
Ha?
Ganda ng bahay ni Prami.
And her children.
Oh, ganda talaga ng bahay ni Kuya Prani. Kala mo lang pag ganun-ganun yun.
Conrad's heart
Ako,
sank.
ganda-ganda ng bahay.
Was it
Ng
possible
bunga na
his
yun.
instincts were wrong?
Ala, ang dami pang
Could
tinapay
McKinney have
dito.
been telling him the truth all along?
Oo.
I don't know anything about no kids.
Ito, oh, nakatago lang.
Conrad dealt the 2 cards.
Anak, kinain.
Nakalimutan ko.
McKinney ignored the
Parang
question
hindi
as
ako
he
ako.
hadn't heard it.
Sus, ang tinapay.
As the 2 men
Namagko ka, Adjo.
the spectators were
Ang gahi na sa rep. Yatay.
enough chips were in the center of the table that the hand
Kano
was
na ba na
serious
merinda
business.
dyan?
20,000 more.
Gusto mo sa
McKinney
kape.
pushed out the chips.
That's
Oh,
50 to
okay.
me.
Conrad didn't look at his cards. He knew what sort of hand he held.
I'll see the bet and raise 10.
See it in 20 more.
Make it an even 100,000.
No one said anything. The room was so quiet, it was like Bat Masterson and the other spectators weren't even breathing. If McKinney saw the bet, more than $500,000 in chips would be piled in the center of the table. Conrad saw
Pamirindahon sa nila mga darling. Ubas,
The
Krizo.
rancher
Sa
looked at his
Krizo ba?
cards, looked at the big pile
Dahil
of
ako sa
chips,
20.
looked across
Huh?
the table at Conrad.
Habol ka na.
Oh, call. He pushed out the chips to make it official. Conrad laid down 4 queens. McKinney's fingers involuntarily pushed on the cards in his hand. Breathing hard, he forced his
What time
fingers
you
open
gonna
and let the
get
cards
your-
drop on the table. All of them were hearts. The 2, 3, 7, 9, and Jack. The flush was a good hand,
11 pa.
but not good enough to beat Conrad's 4 ladies.
Maya na daw siya mag-snacks kasi.
McKinney's stake
Hindi
was
pa
down
siya
to about
gutom.
200,000. Conrad had $750,000 in front of him.
Ayun.
Once he pulled in the
17, 18, 19, 20 si ano si Inday Rachel. Rachel Ann. Sus kamagko mo dili tawo na niyo man makaon.
then you won't be that lucky
Di,
again.
tanaw na itong ukip. Sabagay, ukip. Ani, kaya naman sa rip.
Yeah, first.
Saglit lang hindi ha. Dagko ka. Kanin na ito na unda. Di na itong pawag luto.
He
Yung
sat
apat.
patiently while Masterson got out a new one.
Tapos sa hindi ka lang si Crystal Pit at hindi pa tunod.
Conrad dealt.
Kuya Prani.
Maybe you better consider my
Tingnan ko
offer.
dito.
Tell me the truth about Pamela Tarleton.
Di ko na sa ulo eh.
I believe you.
McKinney started up from his chair.
Andito yung listahan ko.
a liar, Rance? Sit down.
Masterson looked over at Conrad.
You're supposed to be playing a game here, Conrad.
Offending Matt Masterson was the least of Conrad's worries. He sensed McKinney was about to crack. He just needed to apply a little more pressure.
What's the bet?
McKinney
Si ano, si Irene.
Let me look at my damn cards.
Si Inday
snatched up the
Irene.
hand Conrad had dealt him.
I'll open for 20. I'm in.
May nakasita premier.
Conrad dealt the cards and drew one for himself. McKinney didn't miss that, he noted. Conrad had tried for a full house but failed, leaving him with 3 nines.
Agoy, ang lamig na yan. Kaya nga eh. Fully vaccinated ka na po ba?
Could have stayed.
Booster na lang ako na.
He wanted to offer McKinney
21.
and then
Ikaw ba, Bunso?
with the deal again, McKinney's confidence appeared to rise slightly. Conrad opened for 20,000. McKinney matched it. After the draw, Conrad raised 5. McKinney saw that and raised 10 more. Conrad kept the
23.
pressure on with small raises, but McKinney obviously felt like he had to match. His raises were reckless. The bet went back and forth, and almost before anyone knew what was happening, the pot was big enough that McKinney was forced to push in the rest of his chips. With his face haggard and drawn,
Ano yung binaksin? Ano yung tinurok sa'yo, Jeff?
and raise again.
Everything. You son of a bitch.
McKinney would have come out of his chair if Masterson's hand hadn't dropped firmly on his shoulder and held him down.
You know I don't have it. You're not even giving me
Oo,
a damn
first
chance.
dose pa lang.
Yes, I am. The truth
Sila
about
Banje,
it.
ano pa lang, first dose din.
Dose.
The truth. I want to know about the
Pfizer of
The two of
Asa
them
Pfizer?
locked eyes across the
Jan
table.
17, 18, 19, 20. Ayun.
Breathless anticipation.
Yung yung mga anak ko,
What I know
Pfizer sila.
would not until after that.
Nordi kasi yun.
You could be
Ha?
lying about
Nordi
knowing
yan.
everything.
Kaya
Two
Pfizer.
children, right?
Oo nga, Pfizer nga.
A boy and a girl.
Conrad's heart slugged in his chest. His hunch had been right all along. McKinney did know something about the children.
That's all you're getting until I see your car.
Hindi naman makita kasi dito, kung hindi ko tinignan dito sa cellphone, hindi ko makita
McKinney
eh.
laid down his card.
Huli yung
Pair of kings.
computer eh.
All I have is a pair
Bago
of kings.
cellphone.
He laid down the ace of clubs.
Una ang cellphone bago ang
The black
computer.
aces were enough. The game was over. Rance McKinney seemed to shrink in his chair like a balloon with the air leaking out of it. For a split second, he felt a flicker of hope when Conrad said he only had a pair as well. There was only one hand that would beat McKinney's 2 kings. Conrad's 2 aces had done it, and McKinney was wiped out. Cheers went up from many of the men in the room, indicating that McKinney wasn't well liked among the group. They were happier to see a relative stranger win. Several of them pounded Conrad on the back in congratulations. Conrad watched McKinney across the table, shaking his head like he couldn't believe what had just happened. The hate-filled gaze
Pa-entry ka na, Bunso.
was even darker than
Wala ka namang klase ah.
Conrad pushed his chips to the side.
You'll take care of this, won't you, Beth?
Of course. You prefer a bank draft or cash?
The bank draft will be fine. Send it over to Ellery's office tomorrow, will you?
Sure, if that's the way you want it.
Drinks for everyone. Take it out of my winnings.
Wala na, nagsialisa na sila.
The spectators surged out of the private room to head for the bar, leaving Conrad and McKinney alone, except for Masterson and a few stragglers.
I believe you owe me something. You bastard. If I had a gun, you'd be dead. Because if you were armed, Conrad would be too. Even if he wasn't, I am. There'll be no gunplay in here. The palace may not be my place anymore, but the owner is a friend of mine, and I won't have it shot up.
No gunplay. But you're going to have to pay off your debt, McKinney. Otherwise, you'll be known from one end of the frontier to the other as a Welsher.
Fine. I don't know what business it is yours, but Pamela Tarleton had those 2 kids with her, along with a nurse, a boy and a girl, like I said. They weren't much more than babies.
You remember their names?
Yeah. The little
Siya,
boy was
Andrea
Frank.
Monteron, magkuyawa naman
The
yung
girl
si
was
Andrea
called
naman.
Vicky.
Conrad felt like he'd been punched in the gut. Would Pamela really be that cruel? Would she really have named the children after Conrad's
Yan,
parents?
22.
But she must have, because McKinney had no reason to lie about it. He might know that Conrad's mother was Vivian Browning, but he wouldn't have any idea that Conrad's father was Frank
Oo,
Morgan.
malayo talaga yan,
That
Jim.
information wasn't strictly a secret, but it wasn't
Paano
known to
yan,
very
Jim?
many people. And no
Lagi
one
na
who
face to
knew would
face.
have told McKinney about it.
What else can you tell me? That's it. I saw the kids and the nurse one time, and Pamela didn't explain
Malayo
anything
yung
about it.
school ko, Pasig. Bakit kasi dyan ka nagpa-enroll ng layo-layo naman?
When she left for San Francisco, as far as I know, were they happy? Well cared for? Happy. How the hell would I know if they were happy? They were little kids. That nurse seemed to be taking care of them just fine. Anything else? I can't think of a damn thing.
Teresel Andan, 21 to 24.
You didn't tell me any of this before.
Why the hell would I want to? I don't owe you anything.
At least I didn't until now. Beat me with a pair of aces.
Just
You tried
well.
to beat me with a pair of kings.
Joshua Raquetera, mega love, shout out. Na-late na naman siya. Tinanghali nagising. Siguro nasa sa live.
You used to buy into the game. Winnings come and go. Yeah, that makes me feel a hell of a lot
Pakikay.
better.
McKinney stalked out of the room. Everyone else had drifted away. Conrad and Masterson were alone in the room.
Do you believe him? I think so. Was it worth it? You spent days playing.
Try lang namin mag-aral dahil nagpa-enroll po ako doon kay tita ko po.
I haven't reached the end of the trail yet. I didn't overlook
Habol
the
ka.
children.
Sisikoy, Joshua, habol ka.
There's still lots of rough country between here and there. I know.
26.
I plan to check at every place along the railroad just to make sure I don't overlook anything. My gut is telling me that I won't find the twins until I reach the coast. San Francisco is a big town. Lots of places to hide a
27.
couple of young'uns. That's true. But I have nothing but time to look for them.
Masterson extended a hand.
Good luck.
Ano, ibabakas?
What now?
Mayang bruha.
Is in good enough shape to travel. We'll head west again.
Bruhang mayang. Ganon, pwede rin yun, balik ta rin. Basta bruha mayang, ganyan.
He deserves to be in on the finish. That'll give you a while to rest up after this tournament, I suppose. I could use it. Playing for
28.
such high stakes will wear a man out. I think I'll go back to the hotel, have a good meal, and then sleep for another 12 hours or so. I'll walk over to the Lansing house with you.
Fox
Worried about me,
official.
Matt? I'm sure the word's already getting around town that you won almost.
Pax official, thumbs up. Maraming salamat po, sir. Pax official.
To my lawyer tomorrow. Wrong. I'm not going to have it delivered. I'm going to hand it over to Ellery Hudson myself. I don't trust that much money to anybody but me.
Kasi kung hahabol ka, ayan, number 1, oh, ibababa ko sa'yo yung number 2. Para makompleto mo.
So we're not going to take any chances. Fine. I won't argue with you.
So, na yung manager.
Ano?
Nakikay mo.
That'll keep me awake.
The two men got their hats and left the
Timbro
house.
yung bruha.
Conrad knew he should be glad he had finally gotten more information from McKinney, but he felt strangely empty inside. Masterson was right. He hadn't really learned all that much, especially considering the strain of the past few days. And he had no way of knowing that McKinney had told him the truth, even though the rancher hadn't seemed to be lying. Conrad and Masterson walked toward the Lansing house.
You said that McKinney has a pretty good-sized spread? That's right. The Double Star is northwest of Boulder. Pretty rugged country? Some of it. McKinney's range runs from the plains through the foothills and on up into the mountains. He got a mighty
Tina,
tough
emoji.
crew and
Try
runs
ako.
the place like it's his own
Punta na,
little
di,
kingdom.
diba?
In other
Sara
words,
ako.
you could hide a couple small children there
Request na
on
yung
the
job, do.
Masterson looked over sharply at him.
Sabi ko dito, ikaw nga yung manager eh.
Stash the
Saan?
kids with him.
Sa ano ni Kikay yung ibaba? Sana all my manager.
I know there was a connection between the two of them. Maybe his reluctance to talk was just part of Pamela's game. Maybe he was trying to fool me all along. No offense.
Dan, si Inday
Conrad,
Crystal
but
Pitt
you're
sa ano,
thinking too blasted much.
21 to
Talk
24.
about Pamela like she was some sort of, I don't know, evil genius. You're not too far off the mark there, Pat. When you think like that, you wonder who's going around and around in
Nahulog
circles.
na naman yung ano
You
ng
can't ever
computer.
trust your
Bulang.
instinct because Pamela
Hinluan.
might have anticipated that and made allowances for it. You're right. But she's been 2 or 3 steps in front of me the whole way back. How can I
Sige,
not
habol
consider
tayo
that
dyan.
a possibility? Well, for Consider this possible.
Dito lang ako,
They reached
magkakain lang
Florence
ako
and
sa
Halsey
gilid.
paused in front of the
Ang
hotel's
tigas.
entrance.
If you start poking around McKinney's ranch, you're liable to get
Lamig.
yourself shot.
Tanghalian namin to, tanghalian.
Chance I may have to take.
Masterson looked at him for a long moment, then nodded.
If you decide to take a ride up there, let me know. You want to come with me? Damn right I do. I don't like McKinney much either. If
Money
he's got
15
those
pesos
kids
dire.
stashed away, then he deserves whatever he's got
Laki.
coming to him. Thanks, then. I'll let you.
Masterson tipped the
Tanghalian
finger
ko
to the rim
to.
of his hat as Conrad went into the hotel.
Tanghalian yung kalahati
He
merinda.
walked past the gray-haired, stoop-shouldered maid and had his key in the door of his room before he realized a maid probably wouldn't be working that late at night. He turned swiftly, but he was too late. Rose Sullivan stared out at him from under the gray wig, and the little pistol in her hand was pointed right between his eyes.
Don't make me kill you.
Sabihin mo lang si Chikoy Jaswell ha, kung tapos ka na sa 1 up to 4.
He didn't want to do anything
Tapos
but
ibababa ko
start
naman yung
pulling
5 to, ano,
She was just out of easy
para
reach,
mahabol mo
far
lahat.
enough away that he could dive out of the line of fire. A little more pressure of her finger on the trigger would put a bullet in his brain. In the back of his mind, he was cursing himself for getting caught. The strain of the poker tournament and the things Rance McKinney had told him had filled up his head to the point that, while he hadn't forgotten about Rose, he hadn't taken the threat she posed seriously enough.
I thought you wanted to kill me.
Yun, daan na siya sa 1 to
You've been
4.
trying hard enough to do just that ever since I've been in Denver.
Things have changed.
What do you want?
Go ahead and not lock the door.
Baba ko muna ang ano.
Don't make any fuss about it. If you raise a commotion and anybody sticks his head out to investigate, I will kill him. That person's blood will be on you.
5 to ano,
Take it easy.
He started to turn toward the door.
Careful.
Taking
6.
it slow, Conrad finished unlocking the door and turned the knob. He swung the door open. The room inside.
Para wag ka muna pumunta sa ibang ano, antay mo yung baba ko para hindi ka malito.
He sensed her rushing
7.
behind him. He knew she probably wanted to knock him out, so he twisted aside and flung an arm out behind him and snagged the sleeve of the nondescript dress she wore in her disguise as a maid. Closing his hand on the material, he dragged her with him.
Nalista na yung kay ate Jasmine.
Nalista mo na?
Keep the door closed, figuring she wouldn't start blazing away blindly. The shadows were his friends.
Ayan yung 5, 6, 7, 8.
Then laid
Kay
absolutely
Jaswell, nalista mo na?
Oh,
silence greeted his ear.
yung akin pala yung jeep.
Rose
Dalawa
knew the
yun.
noise she made would tell him where she was, and yet they couldn't lie there forever, trying to.
Ayan yung hinahabol ni ano.
Sooner or later, somebody would have to move. A little light from the gas street lamps outside penetrated through the tiny gap in the curtains over the window, and more light seeped under the door from the corridor. Conrad's eyes began to adjust. He could make out the vague shapes of the sitting room's furniture. His guns were all in the next room, but he couldn't reach them without betraying his presence. Still, he needed to be closer so he wouldn't have as far to go to get them when the showdown came.
28
He
yung huli
slid
ko.
a couple of inches in that direction.
Of comments
Arm it on
po.
the floor, making his movements silent.
Of comments.
The carriage team suddenly clattered by the street outside. Rose might use
Lahat
the
of
noise
comments
to
in
filter
Dikers
the
del
sound she
Pet.
made, Conrad thought.
Hindi
He
naman
lifted his
ako.
head to look for her and saw a flicker of motion to his right.
Yung 25 to 28.
Oo.
It
Pinuntahan
moved
ko
in the
nga
air
ngayon
as she
yun.
leaped at him. Surging to his feet, Conrad lifted his hands to grapple with her. He reached for her
Oh,
arm and
comments
tried to
daw yung
grab her with
28.
his
Yun
right
eh.
hand so he
Kikita
could
yun
keep
eh.
the pistol pointed away from him. He caught hold of empty fabric. He heard the springs on the divan sag under a sudden weight. Then something crashed into his back and drove him forward on his knees. In the split seconds, as he was falling, he knew Rose had slipped out of the dress and thrown it into the air to lure him into moving, then leaped onto the divan and from there onto his back. As he landed on the floor, with a
29.
solid weight on his back, the impact drove the air from his lungs.
30.
The next instant, one of her arms looped around his neck and closed on it with incredible strength, keeping him from drawing a breath.
You think a woman can't fight? You think we're all weaklings?
He didn't recall ever saying that.
31.
He certainly wouldn't say it about Rose
Comment
Sullivan
na
or
daw.
whatever her name was.
Hindi
She
iwan ko sa
obviously took her job as a hired killer seriously and was in superb shape. The lack of air was making his head spin as unconsciousness
32.
threatened to overwhelm him. But he was bigger, heavier, and stronger than her, he told himself. He had to be able to break loose from her grip. He got a hand under him, then
Sa
a knee,
akin, di man siya
and
comment.
heaved himself
Kay
off
Kika
the
yun, di ba?
floor, taking her with him. Reaching
Oh.
to the
O, di
side,
ba basta?
he sent them crashing
Of
into the
comment
right
nga daw yung
against the
28.
wall of the
Yung
sitting room.
28 lang.
Rose's arm came loose.
Ayan si Jaswell, o lista mo.
Conrad dragged
25,
her into his
27,
body and
28.
twisted around and reached for her. A small but
Binaba ko na si Sikoy Jaswell yung 5, 6, 7, 8.
the wig had come off, and he could tell she had tied her blonde hair up in a tight knot on top of her head. Before she could move away, Conrad hit her. She went limp, and even after everything that had happened,
Mamaya, kasi dalawa lang naman kayo. Dalawa lang tayo maglalaro.
and her arms fell out on her sides, he stood up over her. Her foot came up with blinding speed and slammed into his groin. Pain exploded through him, bringing with it the knowledge that Rose had been pretending to be stunned. She had fooled him, and he cursed himself.
Yung dalawa lang maglalaro.
Double over and fall to the floor. He
Ako
heard the door of
nagkasama.
the suite open. What the hell happened in here? You were supposed
She's
to
just well Rakatera, MLSO.
Conrad realized through his pain, but the voice belonged to Rance McKinney.
Don't worry about that. Just sit here.
Well, I'll take care of all right. Conrad wished he had a gun. Although he might not have been able to see straight to fire it, he would have tried anyway. But he didn't get the chance. Sometimes, just being alive came as a great surprise, which was how Conrad felt as awareness seeped back into his brain, along with a great deal of pounding agony. He had been knocked out before, so he knew what it was like to feel as if a band of demons was inside his skull, slugging away at it with ball-peen hammers. That was actually his pulse, and pain shot through his head with every beat of it. But that meant his heart was beating. When he passed out, it had been with the grim acceptance
Sana maubos yung tuyo ko.
Rose and McKinney would probably slit his throat while he was unconscious. Instead, he was
Daming dala ni
alive,
Kuya.
and he gradually
Dami
became
siyang
aware
dala.
that he was moving. The rough
Ano yan
surface
eh?
on which he lay swayed back and forth underneath.
60.
Musty
One,
smell
two.
filled his nostrils,
Braso?
and something scratchy rubbed against his face. After a few
1, 2
moments, he
plus
realized he was wrapped up in a blanket,
walo na ano,
probably lying in
pinasulunta.
the back of a wagon.
Yan yung sobra.
The roughness
wala na, wala na.
The vehicle wasn't rolling over Denver's
Wala
paved
na, hulot,
streets.
no?
So he was out on the trail somewhere, he thought. The fact that McKinney had been in his hotel room along with Rose Sullivan
Puset.
gave him a
May
pretty
tinda
good
ako
idea
dito
of
dahil
where his
puset,
actions were headed.
tuyo,
They were on their way to
daeng.
McKinney's Double Star Ranch. Despite the pain in his head, Conrad forced himself to concentrate on the predicament in which he found himself. He remembered how Rose had slipped into the hotel in disguise and gotten the drop on him. The exchange she had with McKinney proved the two of them were working together. Conrad didn't know if that had been the case from the start, or if Rose had gone to McKinney for help after her true identity as a hired killer had been discovered. It didn't really matter, he told himself. What was important was that two very deadly enemies of his had teamed up, and he was now their prisoner. So far, he hadn't budged as awareness came back to him. He remained as motionless as possible. The wagon's bumps and jolts made him move a little, but he kept his muscles limp so that would look natural. The longer he could keep them from realizing he had regained
5 to 8
consciousness,
done.
the better. When he got a chance to make a break for freedom, he wanted to take them by surprise. He wondered how long he had been out cold. It seemed like a long time, hours maybe, but he knew that feeling could be deceptive. Along with the hoofbeats of the team pulling the wagon, he could hear other horses. Outriders, more than likely. Maybe McKinney himself, since he struck Conrad as more the type to ride a horse
9,
than sit on a wagon. Rose would be on the wagon. He
10,
considered the possibility of throwing off the enshrouding blanket, grabbing her, and using her as a hostage. It wouldn't work, he decided. For one thing, he was too likely to get tangled up in the
11.
and slowed down by it. For another, just because McKinney and Rose were
Ay,
working
puta.
together didn't mean that he gave a damn what happened to her. If Conrad threatened to kill her, McKinney might just laugh and tell him to go ahead.
Ay, naku.
Anyway, he wasn't the sort of man who used a woman as a
Mali.
shield, even a dangerous woman like Rose Sullivan. He would have to find another way out of the mess, and it would have to be soon. There it is. Double star ranch.
11, 12.
It was too late to make a move before they reached the ranch. The wagon came to a stop. Let us give you a name. Obviously, he was helping her down from the wagon seat.
Ayan yung hinahabol mo, Inday. Ay, si Sikoy.
Strong hands sneaked into the
Ay,
wagon
grasya,
bed.
busog na din yung taon.
Conrad felt himself being dragged toward the back of the wagon. They lifted him clear of the vehicle. Dump him out. The men let the musty blanket unroll. Conrad tumbled free. But instead of crashing limply to the ground as an unconscious man would have, he caught
Tapos na si
himself
Inday
lively on his hands
Vizcana.
and feet.
Sunod
Men crowded
naman
around him and grabbed his arm. A fist crashed into his jaw and rocked his head
Sally
back. In
Trevino.
the chaos that surrounded him, Conrad
And
couldn't
this
tell exactly what
Abidulip
was going
pala.
on, but he heard McKinney. Hold him. A fist slammed into his belly. Conrad felt sick, but there was nothing in his belly to come up. McKinney hit him again.
Bakit kaya ganito yung
Pounding him
kalapidure
like a
mo?
side of raw meat, while the cowboys held him off. Reckon that knocked all the fight out of him. Let him go. The men released Conrad. He tried to stay on his
33.
feet, but his support it. He fell to his knees
34.
and stayed there. McKinney stood in front of him, looking dark and huge in that cowhide vest. The rancher grinned and rubbed his swollen knuckles with his other hand.
You may have won the car game, you
35.
son of a bitch, but you lost everything else. And you're just getting started learning how much you lost.
When
36.
Conrad woke up, he was lying in a soft, comfortable bed between crisp, clean sheets. The shock of those surroundings was so great, it was almost like someone had thrown a bucket of cold water in his face.
Brandon's awake. Go tell the boss.
A door opened and closed, and it was followed by a sound Conrad knew all too well, the sound of gun hammers being drawn back. He opened his eyes, wincing a little as light struck them. Sunlight slanted in through a window with the curtains drawn back. As his vision cleared, he saw two men standing at the foot of the bed. Each man had a double-barreled shotgun pointed at him, and the weapons were cocked and ready to fire.
Better be careful with those scatterguns, boys. Oh, figure off. At this range, there won't be much of me left. The boss won't like that.
Mr. McKinney said we was to go ahead and kill you if you try anything else.
Dan 29 to
I'm tired of
32.
your tricks, mister.
Conrad felt too weak for any tricks. He closed his eyes again and lay there, trying to
Yan, nababa ko na yung 9 to 12.
quick inventory of his aches, pains, and bruises. Yep, he decided after a moment. He hurt pretty much from head to toe. The rancher looked pleased with himself as he grinned down at his battered prisoner.
Well, I'm glad to see you're not dead. You'd be getting off too easy if you were.
What the hell are you talking about, McKinney? I never did anything to you except beat you at a game of cards.
McKinney waved his left hand. His right rested on the walnut butt of the Colt holstered on his hip.
I don't care about the money. It's what you did to that poor woman you got to pay for, Brandon.
Poor woman? You mean the woman calling herself Rose Sullivan?
Not her. That gal can take care of herself better than any I ever saw. I'm talking about Pamela Tarleton.
I don't know what she told you, but chances are
It was a lie. That woman never told a lie in her life.
The conviction in the rancher's voice told Conrad that Pamela had worked her magic on him and woven a spell like some latter-day Circe and convinced McKinney to believe whatever lies she laid out for him. She had probably taken McKinney to bed. She had been able to make any man believe anything when the falsehoods were accompanied by soft, sleek flesh and softer kisses.
She explained everything to me. She told me how you went loco and threatened her, how she had to break off your engagement and run away from you just to save herself. She told me about how you've been trying to kill her ever since then, how she had to hide.
Bakitay 17 to
I
24.
didn't dare tell you about those kids. She knew that
Nakauwi ka na, Kai?
She said if you ever found
Bilis
out,
mo naman.
you'd track her down. She made me promise that if the trail led you to me, I'd stop you. That's just what I'm gonna do.
you've got it all wrong. I just want to find my children.
So you can mistreat them like you mistreated their mother? Not a chance in hell, Brandon. I know what I've got to do. You're never gonna leave this ranch alive. But we're gonna have some fun making sure you wind up dead.
The vengeful expression on McKinney's face and the cruel anticipation in his voice made it clear.
Ayoko na, hindi ko na ubos. Tama lang talaga kalahati. Kaya.
Had a mile-wide streak of viciousness and evil in him before he ever met her. Conrad had seen that for himself the first night he'd run into McKinney during that altercation in the palace. He might have built a successful ranch for himself, but he was still a cold-blooded killer at heart, and the hard cases who worked for him weren't much better. Conrad wasn't sure exactly where Rose Sullivan fit into things, but he knew she was working with McKinney. That increased the odds against him.
You can get away with kidnapping me. When I disappear, too many people will ask questions. They know you had it in for me. They'll come looking for me, and this ranch is the first place
33
they'll
to
look.
36 Dan si Kuya Joshua.
Look, nobody on the Double Star will talk. My men are all loyal to me. By the time anybody actually searches,
29 to 23 Dan si Kika J.
and the coyotes will have scattered them all over Hellingo.
29 to 32.
For the first time, Conrad realized he was naked.
When he's got his clothes on, bring him downstairs.
If he tries anything, boss,
Blow him to hell.
McKinney grinned at Conrad again.
You see, Brandon, I'd rather carry out what I got planned for you. But if as long as you wind up
Si
dead,
Bumbimban. Sunod si Inday Taswell.
don't let him get too close to you. He's fast and tricky.
The cowboys nodded in understanding and backed off, keeping the shotguns leveled at Conrad.
You heard the boss. Get out of bed and get them coats on.
The man
9 to
listened
12 pala,
slightly.
now pa lang ako pupunta.
Conrad looked in the
Okay.
direction the man indicated and saw a pair of denim trousers and a
37.
work shirt draped over a chair. He pushed the sheets back and swung his legs out of bed.
38.
I don't see any boots. If the boss wanted you to wear boots, there'd be some boots there. Now hurry up, damn it.
Conrad sensed their nervousness. They were afraid he would try something. At the same time, they hoped he
39.
would. Then they could pull the triggers on those scatter guns and have it all over and done with. He didn't want to give them any excuse to do that, so he moved slowly and carefully as he stood up, went to the chair, and started pulling on the clothes McKinney had provided. When he was dressed, one of the guards opened the door and backed out through it, keeping his shotgun level. The other two guards flanked Conrad.
You realize that if you shoot me now, you'll kill each other too?
The guard's eyes widened.
Mali, 9 to 12 pala now ako pupunta.
Don't worry.
Dan 33 to 36.
For now.
He had looked
Sabi
around
ni
enough to
Kikay.
see that the room was simple but comfortably furnished. And as he stepped out into the hall and felt a thick rug under his bare feet, he saw the same seemed to be true of the rest of the house. A few yards away, the hall opened onto a balcony that overlooked a large room on the first floor. Conrad hadn't known until then that he was on the second floor. He figured he was in McKinney's ranch house. The outer walls were made of logs, and there was dark, heavy wood almost everywhere he looked. The horns of deer, moose, antelope, and elk adorned the walls. It was the sort of house that would be built by a man who had carved an empire out of the frontier. Some men did that sort of thing honestly and honorably. Conrad had a strong hunch Rance McKinney was not that kind of man. It wouldn't surprise him a bit if most of McKinney's first herd had been acquired by the light of a rustler's mood. One of the guards backed away in front of Conrad, while the others followed him.
They're waiting for you downstairs.
He went down a broad staircase with thick banisters made from heavy beams.
41.
At the bottom, he looked across the big room and saw a table sitting in front of a massive stone fireplace that was cold at that time of the year. The table was set for breakfast, and the aromas of hot coffee and food made Conrad's stomach clench as a reminder of how long it had been since he'd had an actual meal. McKinney sat at one end of the table, Rose at the other. Her pale, wavy hair was loose around her shoulders, which were left partially bare by the low-cut blue gown she wore. McKinney grinned as he got to his feet.
Glad to see you decided to join us, Browning.
He waved at an empty chair halfway between him and Rose.
Have a seat.
You're putting me in the middle so that if your men cut loose with those greens.
Dan 37 to 40.
Rose, I take it.
Ang bilis mo Kikay ah.
Bilis mo
He kept
kaya.
his face coolly impassive and didn't let them see how much he hurt all over.
That's right. Sit down.
Kapagod maghabol gyatay. Huwag ka tumakbo.
Motor ka.
Maya naman baba gyatay. Sabi na.
Ano?
Mamaya ka raman magbaba. O, tingnan mo. Yuyusi muna ako saglit. Upo ka kaya muna dito di aba sa CR ako. Marami pa akong binaba eh. Hindi niya pa yan ano. CR na ako eh.
Otherwise, you would have
Upo ka muna dito.
when you had the chance and not turned loco.
Conrad started to tell the rancher again that he was making a big mistake, but he gave it up as a waste of breath. After everything that had happened, McKinney would want him dead even without the lies Pamela had told him. McKinney's arrogance would have demanded
Dance of
revenge for that
30,
humiliating defeat at the poker
37,
table.
40.
Again.
Kay Kikay, kay Kikay.
Always last minute.
Conrad picked up the coffee and took a sip of the strong black brew.
37 to 40
It occurred to
Kikay.
him that McKinney might have
Nasaan
had the
ako?
coffee and food drugged. And why would he do that? He already had Conrad completely in his power. Conrad drank some more of the coffee, making him feel better right away. The food helped even more. He was hungry enough that he wanted to wolf it down, but he forced himself to eat slowly and deliberately.
Just what is it you have planned for me anyway? I know you're going to kill me, but how?
Nobody ever claimed that Rance McKinney
Just
wasn't
well.
a sporting man.
What does that mean?
Just well
He's gonna do
Rocketera.
something foolish. He's going to give you a chance to fight for your life.
Conrad had hoped McKinney might be leading up to something like that. He would stack the odds against him, sure, but the idea of leaving Conrad one single shred of hope before crushing him
Ayaw
would
mo
appeal to the
maano ng
rancher.
ballpen.
Conrad turned his head to look at Rose.
I suppose you'd just rather put a bullet in my head.
That's right. I was paid to see to it that you weren't left dead. But since you and that Italian friend of yours ruined all my other plans, I'll end up having to go to Mr. McKinney for help. He's going shots now.
Damn right I am. What we're gonna do is have ourselves a little hunt.
What do you mean by that?
The Double Star is a big place.
Just will wrap it
Marine
up.
comes for miles back up in Brooklyn. Our men are gonna take you out there and leave you,
Bah.
just like you are now. No guns.
37 to 40, done. Maya naman giatay.
Dan 44.
Done 44 to 47.
Me, better than you did with that devil. McKinney nodded toward Rose at the other end of the table. She didn't appear to take offense at the characterization.
You're probably right about that.
Conrad ate some more of the food and washed it down with the coffee, making an effort to stay calm. He had said people would come looking for him, but he didn't know if that was true. He wasn't sure who it would be. Arturo was still in the hospital. And he wasn't any
45.
sort of frontiersman. Bat Masterson would deliver the bank draft for Conrad's winnings to Ellery Hudson to be deposited in one of Conrad's accounts. But neither of them would have any reason to suspect something had happened to him in time to help him. Nobody else in Denver cared one way or the other about him. He was
47.
probably on his own, he told himself. Alone, on foot, weaponless, with a horde of killers coming after him. That was the fate McKinney had in mind for him. McKinney didn't know it
Maya naman, di
yet,
atay.
without an ounce of bravado. But the rancher had made a bad mistake by not killing him right away.
Kala mo
At
ah,
that moment, the man sitting at the table,
pag ano,
calmly eating his
pinapahabol-habol
breakfast
mo
before being
ko.
taken out to be hunted down like an animal, might still look like Conrad Browning.
Si Sikoy done sa 41 up to
The kid
44.
enjoyed the meal and ate plenty. One thing a man with drift learned in a hurry was to eat when he got the chance. You never knew when the opportunity might come around again. The kid started to get impatient.
There's no use in you stalling, Browning. Things are gonna turn out the same no matter what you do.
The kid drained the last of the coffee in his cup and set it down on its saucer of fine china.
Do what you have to do, McKinney.
Damn
Huwag
right.
kayo mag-alala, marami to, pati mga member pa entryhan ko.
Get him on his feet.
The kid stood up without waiting for the men to force him to leave the table. He wanted to get out of there, wanted to have a chance to move around again, plan his strategy to turn the tables on the rancher. The first order of business would be to get his hands on a gun, but that would have to wait. At the headquarters of the Double Star, he was surrounded by dozens of hard cases toting Colts and shotguns. No matter how good he was, he couldn't buck those odds. McKay scraped his chair back, too.
Tie his hands behind him and take him out to the wagon. Be careful. Don't let him try anything.
The kid smiled faintly. He wasn't going to try anything. Yet. McKinney looked at the woman sitting at the other end of the table.
You coming along?
No, you don't need me. I've done my part. Just make sure he dies.
Count on it. While a couple of men covered the kid with their shotguns, another of McKinney's punchers came up behind him, jerked his arms behind his back, and lashed his wrists together with several strands of rawhide. The man jerked the knots so tight the kid's fingers began
Wala na
to
si
numb
Nick
right
Still
away.
Fit. Saan na
As the
kaya?
circulation was cut off.
Dalawa na
That
lang.
might prove to be a problem later, he thought. But he would deal with it when the time came.
Nabinat din yun siya.
Once his hands were tied, the guards prodded the kid toward the front door of the ranch house. They went outside into the bright morning sunlight. A wagon was parked in front of the house. Probably the same one that had brought him out here, the kid decided. He hoped they wouldn't cover him back up with some damn stinking blanket again.
Get him in the back.
McKinney followed them out onto the porch. Men grabbed the kid's arms and hustled him down the steps and across the yard to the wagon. He didn't put up a fight. The wagon's tailgate was already down. When they reached it, the men took hold of the kid and literally lifted him and pushed him into the wagon bed. The sore muscles protested.
Done
as he
sa
bit down
45
and rolled
to
across the
48.
rough planks. Awkwardly, because his hands were tied behind his back, the kid worked his way into a sitting position. A couple of men climbed onto the wagon seat. One of them took hold of the reins, while the other
17 to
turned around and
20,
leveled a revolver
done.
at the kid. Other men moved up on horseback, flanking the wagon on both sides.
Pahinga mo na, oy.
Maghiwa ako. Sige.
Reklamo mo, day ka.
Reklamo, di ka, tapos minamadali mo ko.
The wagon lurched into motion, making the kid sway back and forth as he couldn't use his hands to brace himself. The slashing hooves of the team and the swiftly turning wagon wheels raised a cloud of dust as the vehicle moved away from the ranch. The guards galloped alongside it, except for one man who trailed behind the vehicle, eating the dust. The kid didn't waste any time feeling sorry for the man riding the drag, since the varmint probably would be trying to kill him before the day was over. It was a rough ride.
11 up pababa hos. 11. Ano ba yung nababa ko kanina?
They formed a majestic backdrop to the ranch headquarters. The sky was a brilliant blue.
Eto oh.
White clouds flowing.
Ano sabi niya?
Denver's crowded streets and the smoky gambling rooms of the palace kingdom lit.
Sino ba? Ano yon? Maka-ABC na.
Sa akin ba?
Ganda.
Kala ko ano? Kala ko...
Ang cellphone kasi
Kala ko Shopee.
I'm excited if the LBC, the cellphone.
Ay, pa-LBC ni Kuya Roel.
Oh, LBC. 11 up pababa. 11 up. Ano bang, kanino na ba ako kanina pagbaba ko? Pindutin mo nga itong ano, pindutin mo tong 12. Pindutin mo yan. Kung kanino yan. Saglit lang ha. Nanalo kasi ako sa raffle. Cellphone ang napanalunan ko ba? Akala ko yun na yun. Excited naman ako.
Saan mo loading?
Okay.
Ano yan?
12, number 12 ito oh.
Kay DJ?
Kay DJ? Kay Brumark. Thirteen. 14. Fifteen. 16. 'Yon. Donate mo na lang sa akin. Dadalhin nga ni kuya mo sa Amerika. Dadalhin niya, gawa ng pagdating niya dyan sa airport, baka mamaya magka-problema na naman, wala siyang dalang cellphone.
Donate na naman.
Dadalhin daw niya. Kasi pagdating sa airport, wala siyang cellphone, tapos magkaroon ng problema. Dadalhin daw niya kasi para daw kahit doon daw siya sa airport, makakontak daw siya sa akin kasi paano daw pag magka-problema daw, sabi niya. Katulad nung pumunta kami doon sa airport, akala namin makaalis na talaga siya. Nawala ako ate kasi nagbayad ako, net namin, billing na. Kaya dadalhin niya, dadalhin niya. Dadalhin ni Darling sa airport. Kasi baka magka-problema na naman. Diyos ko, Ginoo ko, sana naman po, Panginoon, hindi na. Nanalo ako yung nabunot. Buti nga, sinuwerte. Yung cellphone halagang 8,000.
Ano yung bagong ano yun? Latest ba yun?
Ano lang yun, yung raffle na yun, yung isang, babayaran mo na 100, isang tao, 100, ganun. Ano ba yan? Ingay.
We wish you a Merry Christmas.
Dalhan niyo kamo ng jowa. Jowa. Guys, sabi ni Banjeline, ijara daw.
Jowa daw, jowa.
Parang tulad sa akin. Mayroon pa yan isang anak, walang asawa kay raffle yun. Oo, ganun. May bayad 100. Ang kinuha ko, dalawa. So, 200 binayaran ko. Isa sa kapatid ko. Yung kapatid ko hindi nabunot. Maganda nga gano'n, no? Gusto ko nga, ano kaya kung magpa-raffle ako ng sing-sing, no? Or kwintas, ganyan. or bangles, nga na, ganyan ba? Rapol, ganda. Ganda pagka ganun. 13 to 16 done. Ayan. Kanino na ba ako? Kay Jaswell na ako, Jaswell. Kasi si Kuya Jaswell na. Nagutom naman ako dito, puro pagkain. Habol. Yes. Yan na yung last na hindi mo naabutan. 48, 49.
Nalista ko na yan.
Nalista na daw ni Banjelan. 50.
Napay ko, anta?
Ano? Ang dami dyan. Yung ano sa gamot. 51.
He was gathering his strength and clearing his mind, preparing himself to face what seemed like overwhelming odds. The way to deal with odds like that, the kid did, was to whittle them down bit by bit. In order to do that, he had to make them think he had given up, so they wouldn't be expecting him to fight back later on.
Oo, rapol.
A couple of hours passed. The wagon penetrated deeper into the foothills. The sun climbed higher in the sky and made the temperature rise. The kid didn't bother wishing he had a hat, knowing that would be a waste of time. Finally, the driver hauled back on the reins and brought the wagon to a halt in front of a long line of
Walang ano men.
about a half a mile away.
Tingnan ko muna yung mga member ko ha kasi ibaba ko.
A couple of guards
Yung mga hindi ko pa nababa.
while the others continued to cover the kid. They reached into the back of the vehicle, grabbed the kid's leg, and roughly hauled him out. He fell off the tailgate and landed hard. While he lay there, half stunned, one of the men drew a knife and bent over to slash the rawhide bonds around the kid's wrist.
Namumula.
He's loose.
The man stepped back quickly.
You got 1 hour, Browning. Then the boss and the rest of us.
Aba, bago pa siya nag-renew si Bakukang. Nag-renew si Bakukang.
He tried to push himself
Si Ate Jill John.
but his hands were like lumps of dead meat and went out from under him.
Jill
He
John.
slumped back down onto an elbow. Let's go! All the men who had dismounted swung back up into their saddles. The driver of the wagon whipped the team into motion. Dust billowed and swirled in the air again as McKinney's men headed back the way they had come.
Timpla lang ako kape. Magkape ka muna dyan, baka antukin ka na.
The spokesman had said they would come after him in an hour's
54.
time. They would rendezvous with McKinney somewhere between there and the Double Star Ranch House, and the hunt would begin in earnest. The kid flexed his fingers and welcomed the fierce, stabbing pain that shot through his hands. The blood was flowing again. He turned his head to gaze at the rugged cliffs. They stretched as far to the north and south as he could see. He couldn't get around them, not in the time McKinney was giving him. The rancher had stacked the odds in his favor by choosing that place for his men to dump the kid, planning to drive his quarry toward the cliffs and trap him there. Like an animal, he'd said more than once, and he meant it. Cornered animals were often the most dangerous, though, the kid thought, as a grim smile touched his mouth.
Swerte nga kay pag buhulanan mo yan, sus, kagigising ko lang. Ay, nako, sabi ko na present. Grabe present ko kayo.
He ignored the discomfort and lifted his gaze to the heights beyond those cliffs. The terrain rose in a series of bluffs and canyons that climbed steadily into the mountains. He needed that high ground, and as far as he could see, there was only one way to get there. McKinney probably thought it was impossible for any man to climb those cliffs. Kid Morgan intended to prove it wrong. His feet began to bleed before he reached the cliffs, but he didn't slow down. He didn't have much time. He had to get there, find a way up, and make it to the top before McKinney and the rest of the killers returned. If they caught him out in the open, trying to pull himself up a few inches at a time, it would be like target practice for him. They could sit down there and take pot shots at him all day, until one of them decided to put him out of his misery. The cliffs seemed to loom higher and higher as he approached them. In reality, they were probably about 100 feet tall, he judged, although from a distance they had looked smooth and sheer. As he came closer, he saw that they weren't. They had a slight slope to them in places, and they were rocky outcrops and fissures here and there. If he had plenty of time and maybe a rope to help him, climbing the cliff would be a challenge, but certainly not impossible. He didn't have either of those things, he reminded himself. But even though he couldn't change time, he might be able to do something about the other. As he trotted toward the cliffs, he stripped his shirt off. The sun was going to blister his skin, but that was a minor worry. The shirt was made of sturdy fabric that resisted tearing, but he was able to get a place started with his teeth and began ripping strips from it. When he had enough of them, he began weaving them together and knotting them into a makeshift rope. A short time later, he reached the base of the cliff. He estimated that a quarter of an hour had gone by since McKinney's men had galloped off, leaving him with about 45 minutes before they returned. He tipped his head back and searched the face of the cliff above him. No handholds were within arm's reach, but he spotted a rocky knob he might be able to catch with the rope he had made.
Hello! Mega love, shout out! Ate Jeljon Vlog! Maraming salamat sa pamember mo nung isang araw. 49 to 52. Akin pala yun. Oo, sa'yo yan. Sunod yung sa'yo yan lahat. Yung 49 to 52. Yung 53 to 56 kay Ate Jeljon yan.
Nalito ka rin?
Nalito ka?
Pa-entry ka more.
Kay Ate, sa'yo yung sa taas, si Kuya Jaswell, tapos sunod kay Ate Jeljon yan. 57.
Hindi mo na malay, uy, sa akin pala.
Hindi niya alam na ano. Hello, hindi. MLSO, Ma'am Jeljon Vlog, sabi ni Inday Crystal Pate. Si Kikay, 49 to 56. Ayun.
A moment later, he was able to hang on with one hand.
58, 59.
His fingers clamped over a rough spot that stuck out far enough for him to get a good grip. He pulled himself up, loosened the rope, and slung it around his neck so he could take it with him. The minutes flowed past.
Walang ano man, ate. Salamat din. 1, 2, 3. 460. Babawi ako kasi isang buwan ako walang ano, walang live.
He was able to worm his whole body into it and lift himself by pressing with his feet and back. He left bloody streaks on both sides of the crack as the rocky surface tore and scraped his skin.
Hello, Crystal Pate, sabi ni Ate Jeljon.
And it wasn't just his life at stake. If he was ever going to find his children, if he was ever going to make a life for them again.
Makatawar mo tani. Makatawar tani mo si Kuya Jaswell. Akin pala yan.
For his sake, for the sake of little Frank and Vivi. His body was slick with sweat and blood. He began slipping. The rocks dug into his flesh as he caught himself. He had lost track of time and didn't know how long it would be before McKinney and the other men who wanted to kill him showed up. Turning his head, he looked out across the flats and saw dust boiling up. They were on their way, and he was only about halfway to the top of the cliff.
Sige, mag-scan
He
yung virus.
started climbing again. He reached the top of the crack and moved on to the face of the cliff again, clinging desperately to it. He was high enough that a fall would probably be fatal. Exhaustion made his muscles tremble. He forced them to work,
53 to
pulled
50.
himself high.
53 to 56 done. Yun kay Ate Jeljon yan kay ano ni Jaswell.
Knowing he couldn't afford the time, but also aware that his body could be driven only so far without a little rest. After he had taken about a dozen deep breaths, he struggled back to his feet and looked up, studying the path that rose above him. He had to use the rope again to lasso another jutting rock. Above that, he picked out several handholds and footholds that would get him almost
Taan
to the
ko nga
top.
kay Ate
He
Jeljon.
had a chance, he told himself, a real chance. He didn't look to see how close McKinney and the others were. There was no point in it. He would make it or he wouldn't. Simple as that. After a couple of casts, the crude lasso caught the rock. The kid pulled himself up. His toes went in a crack in the rock, and his other hand found a grip. He didn't need the lasso anymore. He could make it from there without it. 10 feet. 5. He could see the top of the cliff, tantalizingly close. He shifted a foot, dug his bloody toes into a narrow opening, and lifted himself. Reaching again, he closed his hand over an outcropping. He was almost close enough to stretch out and grasp the rimrock itself.
Dan, 25, 26, 27, 28. Si Rachel Ann. Mabol si Rachel Ann.
He fought off the urge to make a desperate leap to try to grab the edge of the cliff. The odds of him being able to do that were so slim, he stood a better chance to continue to climb with the rifle bullets whizzing and singing around him. He clamped down on his nerves and reached for the next handhold. Firing upward at such a sharp angle was tricky. Most of the slugs struck the cliff below or sailed over his head. A few caught the rock face around it, causing little chips of rock to sting his bare torso. He expected to feel the smashing impact of a bullet at any second. But until that happened, he was going to keep
57 to 60. Dan.
got a good hold and pulled himself forward. The rim rock was within reach. Perhaps McKinney was a good 100 feet below him.
Ayang channel.
The kid stretched his right hand up and closed it over the rocky brink. He shifted his left leg and pushed up with it. His left hand clamped onto the rim rock as well. He got the toes of his right foot in a tiny crack and put his weight on them at the same time, hauling himself upward with all the strength he had left in his
Si
arms.
Yang Yang.
Then the rest was torso, and then he was toppling forward, rolling away from the edge as bullets.
Hello, Kikay. Sabi natin Jorjon. Sabi ni si Kay Josuel, 57 to 60. Dan, budget.
Sino?
Josuel.
Dahil tapos na.
Kika yun eh.
McKinney didn't understand. The kid didn't want to get away. He wanted to meet his enemies on his own terms, at a time and place of his own choosing. He rolled onto his side and got to his feet. Pain shot through him as he put his weight on those lacerated soles. He hobbled toward a sandstone bluff that rose to the mouth of the canyon. McKinney's reaction told the kid that what he'd suspected all along was right.
64.
There was a trail leading to the top of the cliff. It had been too far away for him to have reached it on foot in the time they had given him. But on horseback, his pursuers would get there a lot faster. He didn't know how much time he had before they would be up there to pick up his trail.
Kape tayo si Kikay. Sabi ni si Koy Josuel.
With every step, meant he would be easy to follow. Although he hated to take the time to do it, he paused long enough to tear strips of denim cloth from the trousers he wore using a sharp rock. He wrapped those strips around his feet and tied them in place. They served the dual purpose of protecting his feet and slowing down the bleeding, so he wouldn't leave such an obvious trail. Once he had done that, he was able to move a little faster. While he hurried toward the bluff, he thought about what he was going to do. He needed a gun, a horse, and some boots. Not necessarily he would take them however he could get them.
Ay, ate. Nasisi pa ako. Sabi mo kasi ang bagal ko. Ngayon, mayroon akong tagasulat. Nagreklamo ka dyan. Kala mo ngayon, walang klase. May tagasulat ako. Oh, di mabilis ngayon.
Nagreklamo ka na siya eh.
Dan, 29, 30, 31, 32. Si Rachel Ann. Mahabol si Rachel Ann eh.
By holding on to the branches, he was able to pull himself up the slope. When he reached the top, he found
Ngayon, nagreklamo ka.
no more than 100 yards wide. In places, it was even more than that.
Ay, Diyos ko.
Grew on the canyon floor.
Wait lang, maya. Maya na magbaba. Okay, sige. Mamaya na magbaba. Kasi nag-ano din ako, nagko-comment pa ako dito.
The riders were still below the cliff, or if they had found the trail and reached the top. Either way, he intended to go.
Tawa si Ate Rachel.
Taking a deep breath, he plunged into the canyon and broke into a
Okay,
trot
Mom.
that sent jolts of agony from his feet up through his body with every step he took. A handsome middle-aged woman Arturo hadn't met before was at the desk in Ellery Hudson's outer office when he came in. His injured left arm was in the black silk sling, and his face was pale from the strain of
Dan, 61 to 64. Tingnan mo, ang bilis-bilis. Oh.
Para kasi ang si kidlat.
True, it had been a little less than 24 hours since Conrad had visited him at the hospital, but most of the day had gone by without a word
Ang
from his
kidlat.
second employer.
Parang kidlat eh, wala na eh.
Conrad would have kept his promise and been by to see him, unless something pretty bad had prevented it. The woman at the desk looked up at him.
Yes, sir, may I help you?
Arturo took off his hat and held it politely in front of him.
Yes, I'd like to see Mr. Ellery Hudson, please. My name is Arturo Vincenzo.
I happen to know you don't have an appointment, Mr. Vincenzo. I know
Si ate din na, si ate Jaswell
you
din
work
na.
on that Browning, don't you?
That's right, madam.
Siya din.
Is Mr. Hudson available?
I can check and see.
She got to her feet.
Did Mr. Browning send you?
61 to 64, o, tapos din.
You could tell me.
Diba?
But I haven't seen it. Perhaps you should talk to Mr. Hudson.
Mamaya pa daw ako magbaba, sabi ni Jaswell. Ay, sabi ni Rachel Ann. Ay, Diyos mio, Marimar.
Hello, Arturo. What can I do for you? It's about Conrad. That's right. He never came to the hospital today. Well, I suppose he might be busy. You don't understand, sir. When he left yesterday, he said he would come by today. Then he never showed up. But I don't know how well you know Mr. Browning, but
Si
I've
Vince
always
Guy.
wanted to do a man of his work. Yes, of course. Did you get a hotel? That's the first place I went. No one there could recall seeing him all day. That's odd. I went up to the suite. Some of the furniture was slightly disarranged, as if someone had bumped it. And the rug in the sitting room was a bit much. I think there was a struggle there. But you didn't
64,
see any blood or
65.
anything like that? No, but I'm still convinced there was some sort of trouble. What about the palace? Have you talked to that Masterson? No, I came here first. Masterson was here earlier. He delivered the bank draft for Conrad's winnings in that poker tournament. Then I prevailed upon him to accompany me to the bank so I could deposit it. I doubted that anyone would bother me while I had the famous Pat Masterson with me. And he didn't say anything about seeing Conrad today. Not a thing.
Hudson went over to a hat tree and reached for his hat.
68.
Let's go to the palace and see what we can find out. That is, if you feel up to it. It's only been a couple of days since you were shot. I'm fine.
Arturo followed Hudson out of the room to where the woman was sitting behind the desk.
Dan si Jaswell, 33, 34, 35, 36.
If you hear
Si Rachel Ann.
Conrad Browning, call the
Rachel
palace
Ann
and bring me
Toledo.
home. I'll be at one of those places.
Yes, sir.
They were about to walk up the stairs to the main gambling room of the palace when Masterson saw them and motioned for them to stay where they were. Quickly, he went down the stairs to join them.
Well, Ellery, I didn't expect to see you again so soon. There's not any trouble, is there?
Perhaps you can tell us. Have you seen Conrad today?
Not at all. I left him in the lobby of the Lansing house last night. That's the last time I saw him.
Si Linjin, tamsak dyan. Si Linjin.
He would stop by the hospital today, and he didn't do it.
Well, I'm
Maraming salamat po sa iyo, ma'am, si Lin. Si Lin. Ang dami ng entry nyo ngayon, oh. Umabot na tayo 68.
Masterson frowned in thought for a moment before nodding his head.
Let me get my hat. We'll walk over to the Lansing and see what we can find out.
Mami Longs.
They didn't know anything, but it looked as if there might have been.
Abot sa daan entry nyo ngayon. Bali, malabo pag di kayo manalo niyan.
Arturo, but I reckon I've had a much more experience at getting people to talk than you have.
A few minutes later, the three men reached the Lansing house. Masterson spoke to the clerk, who had denied having seen Conrad that day.
Gather up all your porters and maids and anybody else who was working here last night. I want to talk to them.
For a second, the clerk looked like he might protest, but seemed to think twice about the idea of arguing with Pat Masterson.
Of course, Mr. Masterson. It'll take a few minutes. While you're doing that, I'm going to take a look at Mr. Browning's suite. I'm not sure it's all right. Mr. Vincenzo has the key.
After Arturo unlocked the door and the three of them stepped into the sitting room, Masterson gestured for his companions to stop where they were.
I want to take a look around without anything else getting disturbed.
Pa-entry na kayo.
Masterson's keen eyes would study everything in the room.
70.
There's been a struggle here, all right. There's a
Dan,
little
65 to
scratch
68.
on the floor
O, di ba?
where that
Bilis ni
got
Makikay.
shoved over hard.
You noticed the same thing. And someone's been kicking and rolling around on that rug. You're right.
It's a good thing the maid
Si
didn't
Kuya
come
Jaswell,
along and
Dan
straighten the place
sa
up before you
55
saw
to
our
56.
Arturo.
65 to
Makes it sound
66.
as if Conrad has
Naka-off
been
comment yung
abducted.
67, 68.
Or worse, let's stay with abducted.
Dan, 37 to
No
40
sense
po.
in
Si ano, si
borrowing trouble.
Rachel Ann.
Let's go back downstairs and
70,
talk to the rest of the
71.
staff.
When they reached the lobby, they found the clerk had rounded up 8 more employees. Masterson began questioning them about anything unusual they might have seen the night before. One of the porters, an elderly black man, lifted a hand.
I seen a wagon in the alley behind the hotel, sir. You reckon that to be something? What sort of wagon? Just a plain old ranch wagon. Had a pile of blankets tossed in the back.
A lot of things
Of Kumen yung 67, 68. Kevin Sky ata yun eh.
Arturo and Hudson, and the expressions of all three said they knew that.
What time was this? Long about 11 o'clock, I'd say. That was after I left Conrad here. I don't suppose you recognize the man driving the wagon. No, sir, I'm afraid I didn't. He's just some cowboy. I reckon he works for Mr. McKinney. McKinney? Yes, sir. Mr. Rance McKinney. I seen him here at the hotel meeting with important cattle buyers and such. Him and some other fellas on horses left out of here with that wagon I've been telling you about. So the woman. What woman? I never did see her face. He's riding up front on the wagon seat, though. That coat with a hood on it, and the hood's pulled up so I couldn't see her face. Rose Sullivan. It had to be.
Yo,
And she's in
comment yung
cahoots with McKinney now.
60.
Maybe she always was, for all we know. What are we going to do? I know the way to McKinney's ranch. I think I need
Nag-iikot pa
to
lang
take a
ako
ride
ng
out
kape
there and
na
have a
yung
look around.
binababa na.
Sige na, mamaya na. Iatay ka talaga eh. Ay, Diyos ko.
I understand. And you've got that bum wing, so I don't care. Just try to stop me from coming with you. I didn't think of it.
The kid followed the canyon's twists and turns for more than half a mile. Once he was between the top walls, he couldn't hear much from outside, so he didn't know how close the search was getting. He concentrated on forcing his exhausted muscles to work and ignoring the pain at his feet. He spotted a narrow game trail, and the sight caused his heart to leap. But animals always knew where water was. The ordeal he'd been through had left him blistered and parched. The trail led deeper into the canyon, which was the way he wanted to go anyway, so he followed it. A few hundred yards later, he came to a place where brush grew thickly against the canyon's left-hand wall. The game trail angled toward the spot. The vegetation and the trail told the kid what he would find there, so he wasn't surprised when he parted the bushes and saw a small pool of water that lay against the canyon wall where a tiny spring bubbled out of the rock. The stone basin that formed the pool kept the water contained. He knelt carefully beside the pool and stretched out a hand toward the surface that seemed to shimmer, even though the sunlight didn't strike directly on it in the narrow defile. He took the handful of water, brought it to his
John
mouth.
41 to 44 po. Ayun.
He had never tasted anything so cold and delicious in his entire life. Throwing himself forward, he plunged his head into the pool. The icy shock of the water sent the blood.
Tapos hinahabol mo naman.
He opened his mouth and gulped down a long drink. The bracing effect made some of his depleted strength return. It wasn't easy, but he pushed himself away from the pool.
Manunukli pa ako nito pagtapos. Ang dami kong suklianan.
Shaking the wet hair out of his eyes, he wiped his face and turned around to unwind the rags from his
Shit, ang
feet.
pulido
They
daw.
were glued to his flesh by
Ay.
black
Kaya
blood.
tutay.
He had to stick his feet into
Hindi ko pa nga nababa yung kahit isang piraso mo lang na video ko eh.
The cold water numbed his feet and brought blessed relief from the pain. He sat there soaking them for what seemed like a long time. Gradually, he became aware of a soft current against his skin. He leaned forward to study the pool. When he saw how clear the
Vomit
water
tinik.
was, instead of fouled by the blood from his feet, he knew there had to be a crack in the rock that carried it away to some underground stream. It was Eden, the kid thought in his exhausted half-stupor. He had stumbled into paradise. His next thought was about Rance McKinney. Paradise always had to have a secret in it. And
Ah, Lazada. Kala ko naman.
stayed with McKinney.
Ka lang, saglit.
Wait lang po. Was there too, in the person of Rose Sullivan.
Saglit lang guys ha. Saglit lang ano. Doon ka muna sa harap.
Aray, ah. Jaswell, done po sa 69 to 72. Hindi siya ko. Dami yung
Saglit lang ay Lazada.
On hands and knees, he crawled over there and pulled the branches back. The rocky wall of the canyon bulged out, forming an overhang. Under that overhang was a small space about 12 feet long and 3 or 4 feet deep. Anybody riding by would never see it if it thought. It would make a good hiding place. He hadn't gone up the canyon intending to hide. He had been looking for a place where he could ambush one of the searchers.
Ayan guys, nililista ko po agad yung mga dinadrop nyo pong
As tired and
entries.
beat up as he was, he might not be able to whip a newborn kitten, let alone some tough as nails hard case. It needed rest. No two ways about it. You could see all of his cable-like hairs, but he broke a branch off one of the bushes and raked it back and forth inside the opening anyway, just in case the
Tapos
raccoon
kay
crawled in
Hikay
there to
Dan.
escape the heat of the day. But nothing buzzed ominously at the poking stick. He figured it was safe. The kid took another long drink from the
Wala bang 7 pesos sa barya dyan, Je? Tingnan mo nga.
letting the branches he had pushed aside swing back into place. It was soon cool and
Barya,
shady.
7.
Sleep right away. He didn't try to stay away. He let himself go. And within a few breaths, he was dead to the world.
Saglit lang ha.
Oh.
Ayan, akin na.
It was the middle
Mayroon
of
ako
the
3 piso
afternoon
dito.
before Arturo and Pat Masterson reached Grant's
Ay,
Maine
TV na yan.
Ha?
TV na yan.
RMB!
Hello, RMD Vlogs. Love shout out. RMB.
Lord have mercy.
Ba't ngayon ka lang?
Masterson. That's right.
Bakit
Looking for your boss. Is Rance here? No. No. Every day. When do you expect him
Si Lice Exploradora Italy. Nagbaba po siya ng kanyang bahay.
Masterson and Arturo exchanged a glance.
Sa'yo lagi taron auntie. Siyempre kasi wala kaming passion.
Ha?
Sa'yo lagi taron.
Oh, mayroong mag-live mamaya eh.
What about Miss Sullivan? Is she here?
Nandito pa ako sa ano eh, sa
Congrats, 1K ka na.
tagal na yan sa 1K. Huwag ka na magbaba, ako na.
Huwag ka na mababa.
73. Baka magdan ka sa sarili mo ha. 4 na video ang binababa ko sa mga member. Huwag ka na magpagod dyan, ako na.
Magdan.
Did he have any strangers with him except the woman? Suddenly,
75.
Appeared in the old-timer's rheumy eyes. He realized he was running off from
Tawa talaga ako ng tawa pero hindi naman ako nagko-comment sa ano, pinapanood ko lang yung mga video niya.
He stopped in surprise.
76.
In the blink of an eye, produced the gun.
Tawa ko ng tawa yung mga video nito. Ang gagaling magdrama, ang mga promoy eh.
Sana isali nila si
Ang
Con.
lalaki ng mga ano eh, views ng video niya eh.
Ta.
Oh.
Sana isali niya si Con ba?
someone back from Denver with him.
Si kanang mong pinsan mo.
Di, Moy? Iwan ko, ba't hindi niya sinasali?
Sali mo naman. Sa ano mo, sa vlog.
You fellas trying to get me killed? I can't go around bragging about the boss's business. Rance McKinney ain't what you call a forgiving man. Tell us something we don't know. Better yet, tell us the truth.
The barrel of the gun in his hand lifted a little to emphasize.
All right. Take it easy, Mr. Masterson. Ain't no need for you to go shooting up the place. There was a fella in the back of the wagon, all right. And when some of the boys went to drag him out, there was a ruckus.
Sos, ginoo ko, ang tagal-tagal ko na itong in-order. Ibuang ka.
Ngayon lang.
I don't know. There were no
Sukini.
shooting, I can tell you that much.
Sukini.
I think they got the
Yung in-order kong una, Diyos ko, ewan ko lang, hindi man, ano. Tapos ito, ang tagal ko na itong in-order.
Hindi, na ano yan?
Natuluyan talaga.
Natambak yun doon eh.
Oh, tagal na nito. Diyos ko.
Where is everybody?
Importante kasi ito sa akin eh. Kasi pag may magpalukulo ko sa tusukin ko lang sa giliran.
They come back yet.
Which way did they go? The old man pointed
Yan,
to
oh.
the foothills and the mountains beyond them.
Wait.
Masterson looked at the old timer again.
There's no reason for you to tell anybody we were here. Oh, sure, Mr. Masterson. Whatever you say.
Yan o, kay.
Masterson got the key moving again and turned the buckboard.
Giatay, naunay na ko.
You think he was telling the truth?
Ano?
Not telling anyone who did.
Ay, sa kanya, di ba? Sa kanya.
Sabi ko huwag mag, ano, murag timang eh.
Naunay noong ka na.
Uy, bakit hindi ka maganda? Hindi mo na ayos ang close mo.
Paano, baid?
You don't know.
Baid, kinabairan, hindi ka siya.
Magkano yun ta? O comment yung 74. Kanino ba yun?
Ha? Kay RMD nga lahat yan eh.
May off comment daw sa yogi atay.
Ganyan lang kasi yan, oh, dito sisiksik ganyan ba. Sa gilid ko. Kailangan ko kasi ito eh, pag ano, hindi ako pwedeng walang kutsilyo sa bag ko eh. Done, 49, 50, 51, 52. Kaso hindi masyadong sarap. Pangit ng pagkaano ah. Oh, yung pangit lipit.
Sa Shopee yun. Ay, sa Lazada
Alam
pa.
mo yung pangit ng ano nyo. Hindi katulad sa una kong kutsilyo na
Asa bro?
iwan nga sa bowl eh. Pag uwi ko bowl, dala-dala ko yun eh.
Asa bro? Basta na ni.
So,
That would be too close to an even break. It wouldn't be even at all. I've seen Conrad go and fire a gun there.
kailangan pa i-ganon. Ano ba yan?
Dami na ni.
You are talking to a man who has a certain reputation as a pistolier, you know? I meant no offense, Mr. Masterson.
73.
Yun na, dumating na sa matagal na panahon. Di ata eh.
Comment yung 74.
And there are none better than Frank Morgan.
Sarap to ihiwa ng tilapia kay eh. Gaganyan ko lang ano.
But like I was saying, even if he's willing to gamble a little, McKinney will want to stack
Ganyan
the
lang.
deck. Instead of
Nakuha na lang nanti ay pinaskuhan. Kaya nga ako bumili kasi wala yung kutsilyo ko nilalagay sa bag. Hindi ako pwedeng walang kutsilyo sa bag.
Give him a head start. McKinney and his men will go after him, hunt him down like a wild animal. That's barbaric. Barbarism is the natural state of mankind. Shouldn't we aspire to more than that? Sure. But in the long run, nothing human beings can do surprises me all that much. That's one of the things years as a lawman taught me.
Ang dadami ng mga views oh.
Ha?
Dadami.
Daming abuse yan siya eh.
Then we'll give him a hand and get him out of here.
Ganda kasi mga video niya, matatawa ka kasi.
Since I started traveling with Mr. Brown, the guy has been involved in several altercations that involved gunplay. But I can't use a rifle with this.
Palitik og WH ante na ka. Palit ka WH sige.
Sure how accurate I'll be with one.
Just make sure it's not pointed toward me or Conrad when you pull the
Oh, pantilapia.
You all right. You can make McKinney's men duck anyway. But maybe it won't come.
May kilala ako pero ako wala ako WH oy.
Seriously doubted that. Whenever Conrad was involved,
Done.
there's always
53, 54, 55, 56.
some uproar interested him. So far, they haven't seen the rancher or any of his men. The tracks continue to lead in that direction. Masterson cast a worried glance toward the sky.
Sun's getting lower. There are only a couple of hours of light left. I can steer by the stars and find our way back out of here after it gets dark. But we won't have much luck looking for Conrad if we don't find him before then.
We can't give up. Not that there's a chance we can help him.
Nobody said anything about giving up.
Masterson hauled back on the reins and brought the buckboard to a gradual halt.
But that's interesting.
He nodded toward a line of cliffs that rose in front of them. What's interesting? I don't understand.
See those cliffs? The
Pahapila
tracks
anti
lead
hapit na ko
toward them.
isang tuig anti.
Cliffs run north
Patay
and
na
south
ko.
for a long way. From here, there doesn't appear to be any way
Kuan.
we could get up there. So why did McKinney and his men ride towards them?
Mayroon kang ano 5,000 monetize ka na. Abangan mo na lang yung Grand LS ko. Kasi yun habulin mo yung mga ano doon palipad. Kasi highest super chatter doon mananalo ng 4,000 WH.
Exactly.
Abangan mo para makamura-mura ka.
Where are they? We can see all the way to the cliffs. No one's out here. Masterson lifted his gaze to higher ground beyond the cliffs.
Maybe they're up there. Maybe Conrad found a way to get to the top after all, and they had to go around to chase him.
I trust your instincts, Mr. Masterson. What are we going to do?
Let's get closer.
Special
Maybe the
an.
tracks will tell us what happened.
Basta ko na yung influence. Pila ante, hatid na ko isang tuig ante. Patay ko.
December 23.
From there, they went north.
He made it up
Sige.
there.
Masterson pointed at
Para
the note.
makamura kayo na lang ang bantayan mo. Sino yung mataas nagpalipad? Lagpasan mo.
Nagpasan mo ng piso.
Ganun lang gagawin mo doon.
Kahit piso rin,
Kasi
nagpasan.
pag pumili ka, mahal.
Ano?
Ha?
Kahit piso rin, nagpasan.
Oo, basta nakalagpas mo sa ano.
When we find them, well, then I reckon we'll probably see that showdown you were talking about.
Kamura ka pa doon.
Euro.
Basta doon sa kasi yung ano kasi, yung sponsor kasi ng WH ko, yung kasi yung ano, highest super chopper.
All he knew for sure when he pried his eyes open was that the light had changed. It was dinner. Not night yet, certainly, but probably late in the afternoon. He didn't know what it was. Then he heard the deliberate hoofbeats of a horse somewhere close by. Carefully, the kid slid closer to the opening. The hoofbeats were louder, sounding like the horse was almost on top of him. He moved along the branches aside a fraction of an inch to peer out. The man rode through the circle of brush
Dan
surrounding the
sa
He reined in and looked down at the stone basin.
57
For a second, the kid
to
couldn't remember what he'd done with
Tignan
his
mo,
legs slipped off his feet. He had
Rachel
left them
Ann.
where the man could see them. It would be a dead
Rachel Ann, nilista ko po agad-agad yung mga ano na guys,
It's all that
yung mga binababa yung entries.
the man might find them if he bothered to
Tingnan
search.
mo na, wala
He
pa.
didn't have any real reason to look
Lipat
for
ka agad pag wala ako ba.
them. The man dismounted and let his horse drink.
May apat.
He knelt beside the water himself and used his cupped hands to get a drink. He could see the man's profile, the angular black stubble jaw, but that was all. Water dripped off the man's sharp
Yun na lang abangan mo sa ano, sa November, December 23.
He was one of the guards who had pointed the shotgun at him that morning at the Double Star Ranch House. Judging by the slow, deliberate way the man had been riding, he had come up the
Kasi pag
canyon,
bumili ka, napakamahal na WH.
namely Conrad Brown.
Oo.
It was the hombre's bad luck that he had found Kid Morgan instead. The man
Abot minsan yung iba nga, 7,000 pa yung iba.
then turned his head toward his horse.
7,000 yung WH ng iba. Kaya abangan mo na lang pag ano, para makamura ka. Malay mo kung yung highest super chatter is 1,000 lang. Oh.
Tapos, ano mo ng 5 piso.
Gawin mo 1-1, ganyan. Oh. Hindi ka na lugi doon.
Floated out of the brush at the edge of the pool.
Bawi-bawi na yan sa
Slammed
mga
into the
ano.
man's back.
Eh, pag doon ka sa bibili ka,
He
mahal-mahal.
didn't have a chance to do anything before he
Para
landed
magkano
face
WH ang mahal.
first with the kid on top of him. He had to open his mouth to let out a yell.
Magkano yung WH lang ta?
Ang WH lang, ang 4,000 WH, kung mapatake na 7,000.
Ni
Planted his right hand on the back of the man's head and forced it deep
RMB
into the water.
dan
Jumping
sa
so hard, he felt the impact shiver up his arm.
79, 80, 81.
To the rocky bottom of the pool. The man bucked and heaved and flashed, but pinned down
Dan na
the
po.
he couldn't throw off the kid. The man's struggles weakened. The kid held him down, waiting for the water to finish him off.
Kapatid ko nga eh, nagbayad nga eh.
Same as cold-blooded murder.
Kala mo ba?
Killing a man like that bothered him.
Nagbayad yung kapatid
The
ko.
fear was
Kasi
mitigated by the certainty the man
mag-isang
would
taon na
kill
rin yung
things
ano
out
niya.
of an eye. He thought only about the bounty he was going to collect from his employer.
Dan 61
It
to
wasn't going to
64.
easily sleep over the hard case's death. The man had gone completely limp. The kid held his head under the water for another couple minutes just to be sure he was dead, then let go of it. The pool was too shallow for the corpse to float. It just lay there.
Ganon talaga sa YouTube, kailangan mo mahuhunan.
The kid took hold of the man's legs, hauled him out of the water, and rolled
78 to 81 dan, bagong dikit. Ayun.
his nose, which had been pushed down almost flat when the kid hammered it against the stone bottom of the pool. He hoped that none of McKinney's other men were close enough to hear him splashing. At least the man hadn't had a chance to yell before his horse had backed off, spooked by the commotion. The kid approached the horse. The animal allowed him to take hold of the reins. He tied them to one of the bushes and felt better now that he knew the horse wasn't as likely to run off. The light in the canyon had dimmed even more as he turned back to the dead man and started stripping his clothes from him. A glance at the rosy sky told the kid that the sun was setting. Night would fall soon. The dead heart
Tsaka maliliit lang naman yung mga nagsusuperchat sa akin, di naman malakihan.
He was able to get into the denim trousers and the faded red shirt the man had worn, but the clothes were tight on him. He didn't bother
Parang
with
sugal nga eh.
The man's gun belt and boots were more important. The gun belt buckled all right around the kid's hips. His pulled the Colt 44 from the holster and checked it. The revolver was in good shape, which came as no surprise. A killer's main tool was his gun, so naturally he took care of it. The kid pouched the iron and picked up one of the boots. The dead man had been a little skinny, but that didn't affect the size of his feet. The boots were plenty big enough for the kid. Maybe too big, in fact. But he used the knife he found in the
Ako walang pambuhunan, kaya work sa pa-entry, ha. Ikaw pa, si Sikoy, Diyos ko. Pakunwari ka lang eh.
Before he pulled on the boots. When he stood up to check how they felt, he found his feet didn't hurt all that much.
Dan 78 to 81. Wow, galing makikay ah.
The kid hung the man's hat on the saddle horn and looked through the saddlebags. He found a couple of dry biscuits wrapped up in some cloth and had to force himself not to cram them into his mouth. He could eat later. There was extra ammunition that would fit the revolver and the Winchester rifle in the sheath strapped to the saddle. Now that he was armed again, the kid felt a lot better. He had a grim chore still to do, though. He bent and grasped the dead man, dragging him over to the kid's face where the kid had slept away the afternoon. He managed to shove the corpse under the overhang where it might not ever be found.
Sorry, mister. I don't have a shovel with a will to bury it properly. It's just too damn bad he threw it in with McKinney.
With that out of the way, he went back to the horse and
Dan
placed the black hat on his head.
Dan
From a
sa
distance, he figured he could pass the dead man,
65
especially
to
in the fading light. His hope, though, was that none of McKinney's other men were in that canyon. If they had spread out to search for
Wala partner si Sikoy. Wala ka bang partner si Sikoy? Hindi nga.
Swung up into the saddle, the kid stood for long moments, listening intently. He didn't hear any other horses moving around or men calling to each other. The rugged landscape around him was quiet. He mounted and turned the horse west, away from Double Star headquarters. Maybe there was nobody close by at the moment, but there were other men in the gathering shadows who wanted him dead. Too many for him to risk trying to get back to the Double Star while it was still light. He stood too great a chance of riding right into trouble. He needed to find another hiding place, somewhere he could eat the meager supper he found in the dead man's saddlebags and rest some more. After that, he intended to head for the ranch headquarters. McKinney wouldn't expect him to try anything like that. The kid knew if he could get his hands on the rancher, McKinney's men would have to think twice about coming after him with guns blazing. Such a daring ploy would be easier once darkness
Widow na ako 6 years. Ah, mao ba?
later in the night would be soon enough.
Ay, sorry to hear that si Sikoy. Hindi ko talaga alam.
The kid rode up the canyon.
Widow na pala siya. Ang aga, no?
Bata ko na siya.
Masterson drove the buckboard along the
Aga
cliffs as the
naman
sun
siya na
continued
widow.
to sink lower. Long shadows from the mountains covered the landscape as the vehicle moved along at a fast clip. Arturo lifted his good arm and put his hand on his hat to hold it on as he bounced a little on his seat.
Sorry, the ride is pretty rough. Don't concern yourself with that, Mr. Masterson. We can't afford
Ang ganda ng mga video ni RMB eh.
After a while, they came to a
Sana
trail
all.
that zigzagged its way to the top of the cliff, following a narrow ledge.
Dami kong tawa pag nanonood ako para kong buwang.
They stared up the trail.
There's no way we can get this buckboard up there. The trail's plenty
Kaso lang hindi na
wide
ako
enough for a man on
nagbabakas,
horseback, but
nagla-live
not
na
a
lang ako.
wagon. What are we going to do? I suppose we could unhitch the team and we could ride up bareback. Or we could
Wala pang
walk it.
nagsiseryoso, oy.
But when we got to the top, we wouldn't have any horses. I can try to ride
Naghahunt din ng papa. Wow.
Dan sa 62 to 85. Si Kikay.
Somebody's up there, and it sounds like they're on their way down. Let's get over in those trees until we find out who it is.
Masterson sent the buckboard rolling swiftly toward a stand of pines about 50 yards along the cliff from the spot where the trail began. Whoever was at the top of the cliffs might hear the hoofbeats from the team and the creaking of the wheels, but that couldn't be helped. Arturo hoped that the sounds of the rider's own descent would cover up the other noises. When they had circled the trees,
Dan sa Rachel Ann sa
Masterson brought the buckboard to a stop.
Pag pumunta dito yung anak ng asawa, pag sumabay sa pagbalik, pagpunta nung anak, yung anak ng asawa ko isa, wala pang asawa yung isa eh. Ayaw, auntie.
Arturo climbed down awkwardly on the other side of the buckboard.
dito. Yan. Ha. Gigamitan. Good na, oh. Director ante.
Grabe.
Sinong director? Sinong director niyan? Director yan. Ano? RMB. Napoy composer nga na. Oh.
Yawa, ay grabe. Anong ilang mga video nila, grabe. Ito mga
Ang galing. Basta mabait at tanggap anak ko. Kunya. Yan ang number 1.
Siyempre, alangan ba mag-asawa kang hindi tanggap yung anak, Diyos ko. Bali na walang lalaki. Yan ang pinaka number 1 nga requirement.
Basta mabait.
Papa,
Mabait!
she need find a husband because
She finding...
know almost 6 years.
Ah,
I said, the son of my husband. But she said, my requirement is he need to, because we have one kid, I think, one. He need to love first my kids before me. That's the requirement.
But maybe he's not perfect like that.
Yeah, that's the very important requirements.
Who's that?
Jaswell Raquetera.
Yeah?
No, Jaswell Raquetera. And Kikay Kulits too.
Pili lang.
They have 2 available here, Papa. That's why I said.
So tell her, I've got a food for my son. I'm going to have to try her out.
You want me to kick your ass or what?
Tell her.
Dan sa 86 to 89. Si Kikay. Kikay! Ang the drama queen. Sorry.
Ano bang ginawa ni Mami Tinik nung
Hindi ko nakita. Nakita ko lang sa nakita ko lang sa post ni sino ba 'yun?
Gusto ko panoorin, hindi ko naman nakita. Wala naman sa
Post ni Ma'am Besa ba 'yun? Tapos nakatag sila ba? Nakatag yung mga nanalo. First si Kikay. Sino yung second? Si Alvin?
Hindi ka na nila.
Oh, si Alvin Marinas. Tama ba ako kay Ate Kikay? Tapos yung third, babae yun eh. Kilala?
Basta ang alam ko, si Kikay first runner-up.
Oh.
Si yung nanalo, yun si Mami Tinik.
Mami Tinik. Magaling po lang acting niya si Mami Tinik. Pahingi ako, Leng. Ate Kikay.
The 2 men moved swiftly but quietly into the trees, working their way toward a spot where they had watched the trail. Masterson pointed at one of the pines and motioned for Arturo to take cover behind its thick trunk. He darted behind another tree. Arturo edged his head out just enough to see what was going on. A couple of men on horseback reached the bottom of the trail and rode out a few yards from the base of the cliff before reining in. Arturo recognized the distinctive cowhide.
56 to 89.
Dan,
The
73%.
man witnessing was one of the rancher's hired
Si
gunners.
Rachel.
He pointed to the
Rachel
ground.
Ann.
You want bread? They have the star bread there.
Sure are.
Rachel Ann Toledo.
McKinney reached for the stock of the rifle that stuck up from his saddle.
That's our cue.
Masterson stepped out from
Sige, maghinto muna ako, Resilan, para hindi ka hapuin dyan.
Away from that rifle, McKinney, or I'll drill you.
McKinney froze with his hands still a few inches away from the rifle.
What the hell? Better warn that gun wolf of yours not to try anything either. If he does, you'll be dead before you hit the ground.
Laki pala ng ano ni Janice sa ano,
Arturo
brand
stepped forward and pointed
member
the
sa
pistol at
member
McKinney.
niya.
Where's Conrad Browning? Is that what this is about? You're looking for Browning? Don't have any idea where he is? Well, I have the law coming on my range threatening me. Can't get away with this mess. Even if you are. That's not going to work. We know you and Joe Sullivan and some of your men.
Hapuin si Resilan pag magbaba ako eh.
You brought him out here to
Habulin mo na lang,
some sort of
habol-habol.
wild animal because he beat you at cards, or because Palo Tarleton filled your head with some sort of nonsense about him. Maybe both. With the fact that you're a low-down son of a bitch thrown in on top of it. But you better call it off, Rance, or you're the one who's going to wind up dead. Off. Maybe we better shut up. Yes. You don't have any proof of anything. I'll get it, though. Until then, you're coming back to the Double Star with me and Arturo. Get down on that
Arturo.
horse and come over here. Go to hell. You want to shoot me, Fat Master? You go right ahead.
Something about McKinney's angry bellow sounded odd to Arturo, and with a flash of insight, he realized what it was.
He's trying to warn someone. There must be.
Guns began to roar above them. Masterson fired, but McKinney had already kicked his feet free of the stirrup and dived out of the saddle as the slug from the former lawman's rifle sizzled through the space where he had been a fraction of a second earlier. McKinney hit the ground and rolled. Arturo jerked his gun up and saw that several of McKinney's men stepped down the trail on foot and opened fire when they were about halfway down the cliff. Arturo pointed the pistol at them and started pulling the trigger. The gun roared and bucked in his hand. He had no idea if the shots were landing anywhere near McKinney's men. He kept firing anyway. Masterson staggered and dropped his rifle. Arturo glanced over at him, afraid Masterson had been mortally wounded. He clutched his right forearm.
It's just a scratch. But they've got us outgunned.
The hammer of the pistol in Arturo's hand clicked on an empty chamber. McKinney was on his feet again with a revolver in his hand. He pointed the gun at the two men by the trees.
How about it, Masterson? You give up, or do we shoot you and your friend in pieces? The law won't let you get away with murder. Murder? You came out here on my range and started shooting me in my head. Sounds like self-defense to me. What's it gonna be? All right, you've got us. Now, what are you going to do with us?
An ugly grin stretched across McKinney's face in the fading light.
Things haven't quite worked out today the way I planned. You give me a new idea. Instead of me hunting down Brown, I'm gonna make him come to me. You two bastards bait the trap.
The shadows
Ano araw nga
were
hindi?
thick in the little side canyon where the kid
Huh?
stopped to rest. He could see only a narrow slice of sky from where he was, but it had faded from blue to purple and back to a deeper blue that would soon be black. Pinpricks of light were beginning to appear as the stars came out. He had eaten the 2 dry biscuits and stretched out on the ground for a while to rest. He didn't allow himself to go back to sleep because he wanted to head for the double star.
4 million, maraming salamat.
He lay there on his back, looking at the stars and thinking. Maybe it would be
Hindi
best
pa
to circle
siguro yun
around
ngayon
the
i-deliver, baka bukas
head
pa
for
yun.
Denver instead. McKinney had already revealed everything he knew about the children. They weren't there. Pamela had taken them with her when she left for San Francisco. So why even bother trying to settle the score with McKinney? Because it wasn't a good idea to leave an enemy who wanted his blood behind him, the kid decided. McKinney might follow him and try again to kill him.
Done, 78, 79, 80, 81.
He faced it head on and conquered it. That was the example Frank Morgan had set for him.
86, 89,
McKinney
sige, well done.
Sat up
Salamat sa 4 million, John.
The kid sprang to his feet and moved swiftly to the horse's side. He closed his hand over the animal's muzzle to keep the horse from making any noise. He could hear hoofbeats as the rider moved slowly and deliberately past the mouth of the side canyon, where it opened into the main canyon about 20 yards away. Another of McKinney's men, the kid thought, searching for him in the darkness. Maybe even McKinney himself, although the kid thought it more likely that the rancher would have returned. turned to the double star already. The rider missed the little side canyon and moved on past him. The kid knew he could take the man by surprise, whittle down the odds a little more. Leaving his horse where it was, he cat-footed along the canyon wall. As he approached the opening, he slid the gun from its holster on his hip. Silently, he rounded an outcropping of rock to the mouth of the canyon and leveled the revolver at the rider's back. Only there wasn't any rider. Even by starlight, the kid's keen eyes could see that the horse's saddle was empty. That sight saw the searcher must have spotted the side canyon after all, and sent his riderless horse on ahead to draw the kid out into the open. He whirled and dropped into a crouch. He felt the wind rip of a bullet as it whipped past his ear. He spotted the muzzle flash from the corner of his eye and sent a slug of his own in that direction. He heard that his aim was true and pulled the trigger again. He'd already fired before he realized there was something different about the cry he heard. It had been higher pitched than he expected. His finger was caught on the trigger, but he didn't fire a third shot. He moved quickly and silently to one side, just in case his assailant got off another round. A figure pitched forward out of the shadows. A gun fell to the ground as the person fell. Shot went through the kid as he saw the fair hair that spilled around the figure's head. He kept the motionless bushwhacker covered as he approached carefully. When he came to the fallen gun, he kicked it aside, farther out of reach. There was no doubt about it. Even in man's clothes, the shape on the ground belonged to a woman. Rose Sullivan.
Ano to di? Ayun o. Australia home seller. Ayun o. Di, kasama na pala ako dito.
Oh, nasala ko na.
Oh.
Basta nakita sa ano.
Paano ako mag-post? Saan ako mag-post?
Punta ka sa ano.
Dito?
He twisted her wrist and forced her to drop the little gun. He used the barrel of the Colt in his other hand to pat it aside.
Saan dyan banda?
Stepped back quickly and pointed his gun at her again.
The better you hit, Rose. You better tell
Hindi ko,
me
hindi ko alam.
lie there and bleed to death.
You.
19 to 94. Done.
You put a bullet in my
5 million people in the Thank you so much, son.
I'll have to see some blood before
Dito?
I leave you.
Damn you!
Rose struggled.
Motorola! Mega love shout out to you, Motorola TV.
Now, are you satisfied?
Wow, nagpamambar ang poronghoy. Nakauli na mo dong?
He didn't know if any of McKinney's men were still
Gagaw muna na to ang taon.
Galahi kasi yung pangalan niya.
Oo, ni bataan ni trutrum ni
For what?
mga motor mga doon ang ija gadon.
Conrad Browning isn't gonna
Motorola.
You want to bet your life on that?
She heard something in his voice that
Pwede na ni ma-monetize si Grand LS na ko dong oh.
followed him as he backed into the canyon. He circled around and
Limpra ulit ng kape.
Ano na, yung kape na yan.
Ano lang tayo hanggang 100 lang to entry natin. Last na to kay Motorola.
he flipped the gun around in
95.
his hand, raised it, and brought the butt chopping down against the back of her head.
96.
He didn't hit her very hard, and her thick hair cushioned the blow. It was enough to send her to her knees, stunned. He holstered the Colt, grabbed her arms, jerked them behind her back, and knocked her down. He straddled her hips with his knees, pinning her to the ground. He
Oh,
held her wrist with one hand, while he used the other to pull her shirt up.
nakahabol ka sa mga una-una pang nakaraang buwan.
Instead of penetrating her body.
96, 97.
You deserve. I'm surprised McKinney.
Nakabalik na mo dong, naana mo dire sa Manila.
He's a damn fool. You should have just.
Dong, Motorola, nakauli na ba mo?
Kikay school ulit.
That's what you would have done, right?
Road to 100 plus
You
entry.
take pride in the job
Mm-mm.
well done.
98.
The kid let go of her and surged back to his feet, moving away from her as he kept her covered again.
You can sit up and tear some strips off your shirt and use as bandages. Or you can let that wound keep bleeding. It doesn't matter to me.
Nakauli na mo kanin sa mo ta.
Blooded bastard, aren't you?
Naana mo dire sa Manila dong?
Rose sat up.
Motorola TV.
People steal your children and keep trying to kill you.
Rose started tending to the bullet crease as best she could.
What are you gonna do now?
Are McKinney and his men still out here looking for me?
Some of them are. McKinney and one of the men were headed back to the cliffs. The last I saw of them.
Ibalok, nakabalik na mo? Balok na tuloy.
Never even knew a woman.
Last entry na yan, last entry.
After they gave up. I found
Oo, tinong November 20 pa. Ah, balik na din mo na eh.
Hold on.
Pretty smart. So was that trick with the horse. You just weren't quite quick enough to take advantage of it.
Next time.
If I kill you, there won't be a next time.
She didn't say anything.
But I think I can get better use out of you than that.
As a hostage? McKinney doesn't care whether I live or die.
But he might care what you can tell the law.
Eh di nakita mo nila papa dito.
Just keep you talking.
That would mean they'd rather see me dead.
Well, either way, it's a distraction, isn't it? Now clean yourself up.
Once Rose was
Sa
done bandaging
26 pa ko
herself
na
up, the kid
nabalik
stepped forward.
Manila.
On your feet. We're going to see how far off your horse strayed.
They're going after McKinney.
Dali ra di mo.
No reason to wait. But if it's dark, maybe he won't see me coming.
He's gonna kill you, you know.
He's been trying to. And I'm still here, aren't I?
You're as crazy as he is.
Maybe.
Oh,
Let's go.
The horse Rose had taken from the Double Star hadn't gone very far. They found it less than 100 yards away in the main canyon, cropping contentedly at the grass. The kid led the animal back to the side canyon. He wasn't going to let Rose mount up until he was on the horse he had taken from the dead gunman. A few minutes later, they were riding east toward the edge of the foothills. He knew there was a chance they could run into some of McKinney's men who were still searching for him. If that happened, he would just have to fight his way through them and keep an eye on Rose at the same
Yan,
time.
86, 87, 88, 89.
As they rode, the
Nasa 89 pa siya.
How in the world did a woman want
Sa
to
Rachel Ann.
Kinahapo.
Kinahapo na sa Rachel Ann.
They don't usually get blood on their own hands. They prefer to have some man do their killing for them.
Some women are like that. But I always like to handle my own problems.
Hanggang 100 tayo ngayon, Rachel Ann. Hanggang 100 yan.
Realizing that some men deserve to die. And there it didn't take me
Magbal, bisaan na tani.
practical too.
RNB vlog.
A pretty face and a
Uy, nabuang na itong kamera pa silin.
make them believe.
Unsa naman eh. Eh,
Even though he didn't know the details of Rose's background, he
Yun,
realized
yun.
it was somewhat similar to that of his friend Lace McCall. She had had a bad time of it as a youngster and had developed a tough hide and considerable skill with a gun. But she was a bounty hunter and used her talents on the side of the law, at least to a certain extent. She wasn't a cold-blooded killer like Rose. He might have tried to find out more from her, but just then he noticed that
kada kayo i-train ka rin eh.
as he frowned, puzzled by the sight, he smelled smoke.
Hanggang kasi sandaan yan higit.
Come on.
Marami pa.
Ang isandahan
Later, they
kasi
reached the cliffs the kid had climbed
sandaan na
earlier in
yan
the day.
higit. Mayroon kanina isa na halo eh.
Then he could look down and
Yung
see
kay
the
nagbaba
vehicle
kanina
below.
isa. Pinin ko yun eh.
Flames had subsided a little, so he got a good look at the charred framework of what appeared to be a buckboard. If he
Marami
didn't know
pa.
better, the kid thought
Mayang gabi
he
pa
would
uli.
take it
Mag-live pa
from
ako mayang gabi.
Toro had driven all the way across the
Pag
ridge.
walang mag-run LS mamayang gabi,
Cold finger traced the
magla-live
icy trail
ako.
along his backbone.
Ay, andyan pa pala si...
nandyan mas kay buhay pa. Hakot award talaga yan kasi napakaraming entry niya sa akin. Baka nga mga 1,000 siguro entry niyan eh.
Alright. Follow me.
Si Kike, number 1, napakaraming entry niya sa akin. Dagdagan pa ngayon 100. Diyos ko, ginoon ko maroon siya.
After they had gone a mile or so, they came to a ledge that worked its way
Hakot
down the
award
face
na
of the
naman yan.
cliff. She continued to lead the way, with the kid covering
Nalista mo ba si
her.
Motorola, Je?
They galloped to the burning buckboard.
Oh,
The
kanina.
fire was almost out. The blackened wood still glowed cherry red in a few places.
Oh,
The fuel was gone, obviously unhitched and led away before the vehicle was set ablaze. The kid spotted something
Ito na yung last.
in the breeze a few yards away.
Kay Evangeline, ibaba natin kasi nanginginig na yung kamay daw niya.
He decided
Anong pangalan mo sa YouTube?
Banji.
Stooping quickly, he pulled the paper free. The moon was
Banji.
but there wasn't enough light for him to read the words written on the paper. He holstered the Colt and reached into the shirt pocket
Ano
where
yun
the
eh?
dead gunman
Eagle.
kept his makings. A moment later, a
Manong
match
dagko
flared,
man ang
and
suwat
the
na
kid
ho.
snapped it to life with his thumbnail.
Napindot ang
The glare
buwan.
from the match revealed the words scrawled on the paper. I have Masterson and the Italian.
Ano man na nagko man?
Double star at dawn
Control.
before they die. The coldness he had felt earlier crept through his veins. The note wasn't signed, but obviously the message was from Rance McKinney. Arturo and Matt Masterson were the rancher's prisoners. The kid wasn't sure what they had been doing out there, looking for him more than likely.
Wala.
But that didn't matter.
Ganyan?
Their lives were in danger, and he was the only one who could save them.
What is it?
The kid crumpled the paper and threw it aside.
McKinney has my friends.
The kid told her about
Ano ba sabihin mo? Ay or E?
Ay.
I guess it's
Hi.
a good thing you have me then. Maybe you can trade me for that.
Hindi naman tayo magkamag-anak eh.
Ay, ano?
Hindi pala tayo magkamag-anak.
Hell with that.
The kid drew his gun and lined
Sus,
his sights
ginoo
on
ko.
Rose.
6 months pa manimidyoha.
Rachel Ann, dansa.
Arturo's arm hurt like blazes. McKinney's men had pulled it out of the sling and yanked it behind his back so they could tie his wrists together. Then they had tied him into the chair where he sat in the big parlor of the ranch house.
Iya kupong-kupong pumanit yung video, guys.
McKinney is going to kill us, you know. Arturo hopes talking would get his mind off the slow, warm trickle of blood he felt, making its way down his arm from the real.
Yan, eksaktong 100 na yan. Dalawang video yan. 90 to 94 po. Sige, antayin kita dyan. Ano? Rachel Ann. Bago natin i-close ang tilon.
Ang tilon.
There's still one thing we have to remember.
Mr. Brown is still out there somewhere.
Exactly. You two shut up that muttering over there.
Pagdating ng January, mabiglang mawala yung mga ano nyo dyan. Mag-iba na ng ano si YouTube.
Policy? Oh. Ayaw ng ano? Ayaw ng ninja?
Because you won't live to collect any more.
The man pointed the rifle at the former lawman.
Why not just
Ayaw
go
ng
ahead and
ninja.
a famous bad masterson? You ain't so high about it now, are you? McKinney wouldn't like that. He wants us kept alive for now. For now, he's right. You two are dead ducks. You just don't know it yet.
No, on the contrary. I believe we are well aware of it.
Well, shut your traps or I'll shut them
Ay,
for you.
Diyos ko.
The boss man.
Daghang salamat sa inyo, mga langga.
3 hours.
Wala na yung tao. Waton lang na. Antayin kita, Resilan. Tapusin mo ba yan? Tapusin mo, sayang eh. 94 ka na eh. Yan, sige kay 99 to 100. Oh, yehey! Complete Ricardo si Makikay.
So that meant she had left on her own. From the way McKinney had gone raging around.
Kahit 3 lang katao. Ay, Diyos ko. Ang tao lang si Jaswell, si Rachel, Kikay. Tapos yun, si Motoron. Pumunta.
Upstairs, I think. Damn it, Carter, I came here to plug in you. What's so all fire important? There's with somebody tied across the saddle. I think it's that girl. She knows staying.
Tayin ko na lang si Rachel Ann matapos kasi 94 pa siya eh. So, 6 na lang.
Okay, yan o.
Close na ang tilon. Hindi naman tayo pwede magpag-games na 2 tao lang.
All 3 of them went outside, leaving the front door open. Masterson looked over at Arturo.
Ay,
Killed her? Would he? Only if she was
sana dumating na yung ano ko.
Suddenly,
Yung
someone
cellphone ko ang panalunan.
Masterson.
Just sit still, Arturo. You and Bat loose in a minute.
Before Arturo even gasped in surprise, all hell broke loose outside. The kid got the knife under Arturo's arms and severed them with one swift
98.
stroke.
Ayan.
Then he moved over.
Akin na yung ano, Jet. Akin na yung lalagyan ng mga, yung entry nila ngayon. Dami, oh. Dami. Ngayon lang to, oh, entry niya, oh.
Ay, sorry sila.
Grabe. Entry niyo ngayon. Toeng.
He planned to fire the place anyway, but blowing it up was a lot more spectacular and also a lot more chaos.
Rachel.
He dragged the old-timer
Rachel
away
Ann.
from the barn so he'd be safe, then opened all the stalls and led the horses out as well. It had taken time to do all that without alerting any men that something was going on. The kid had learned to be patient as well as how to move as quietly.
Kompleto ako ngayon ulit.
Oh, kumpleto nga eh.
Si ano na lang, si
Anaantay ko na lang si ano,
Rachel.
si Rachel Ann, 2 pa kulang. Ang Jaswell pa pala, 2. Tapos ang Jaswell,
Hindi pa.
wala na lamas.
Sakalin ko yung si Banji.
Ang dami yung entry ngayon, 100. 3 lang kayo nagpapa-entry, 300 yung kapapil.
Dami nga, naubusan nga ako ng papel eh. Ayan na.
Ayan na, na si Rachel Ann Toledo. Mag-iwan-iwan na tayo, guys.
Pizza.
Yahoo! Natapos din, sakit daliri ko. Hayaan mo, Inday, at malay mo, di ba? Ito yung 2 mo, oh.
Rachel.
Yahoo, yahoo, yahoo. O, iwanan ko na kayo, guys, ha? Magpapasalamat ako, mag-ano ako bukas. Mag-ilis din ako bukas. Manunukli ako ngayon. Ang dami kong suklian. Ilang buwan na.
Salamat po.
Maraming salamat. Dadalawin ko pa yung mga sponsor ngayong araw na to kasi walang gagamit ng computer ko eh. Ako ang gagamit. Dan, dikit na din. Ayun, si Josuel pa. Sa'yo ata yung budget, dalawa.
Dalawa yung kay ano?
Josuel, oo. Bukas uli tayo. Hapon naman, hapon. Alas 4 umpisa hapon. Kasi di ba may klase na kayo bukas?
Oo.
Oh, lagi. Alas 4 naman. Hirap kasi wala silang ginagamit na computer, kundi computer ko eh. Hindi gumagana yung ano. Ito sa'yo, si Koy Josuel, oh, dalawa.
Sa Shopee.
Magbabay-babay na ako sa inyo mga langga. Si Koy Josuel, Rachel Ann, Ikay, bye-bye. Salamat. Thank you so much talaga.